us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. Yeah, it's the vibe that praised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launch pad flights.
It's felt like Christmas for the last couple of days for me, because I've been looking so forward to be able to sit down with this young lady with one of the most beautiful smiles too. But most of the time people come to a crossroads in life. They think I've got to choose faith or I got to choose business. And today it's great because we get to get an intersection between the two of them that they can't actually be separated. And it's my honor and pleasure to be able to bring to you Nichelle Early. And she didn't want me to say her middle name, which is just L. There's an L in the middle, but it's been incredible because most of the time when people speak, they speak from theory. You speak from experience. You speak from a side of conviction because you actually lived it. And so it's just an honor and pleasure to be able to have you here on the show.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to an amazing conversation with you.
Why were you so nervous?
I'm always nervous.
Really?
Everything I approach, I think there's a little nervousness that precedes it. And I think it's just a reminder that, I lean very heavily on God and His Spirit to guide me and to allow me to speak things that will really leave an indelible imprint on people's lives. So
where did that come from, though? Because that's a pressure, right? Yeah. So at 7 years old, you gave your heart to the Lord.
Yes.
At 11, you preached your first sermon.
Yes.
At 17 years old, you got ordained.
Yes.
I mean, you were on a mission.
I was licensed at 17.
At 17 years old?
Licensed to preach at 17.
Okay, let's go back to the 11 years old.
Yes.
Let's go back to the 11 years old.
Yes.
We're going to do this kind of Quentin Tarantino-ish because we're going to do the end, and then we're going to go to the middle, and we're going to go all around. But the 11, that struck me. What did you preach on?
You know what? I preached on Habakkuk, and the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2.
That's how you say it?
Yes.
I always said Habakkuk.
No, Habakkuk.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Are you positive?
I think I'm positive, at least.
Say it again.
My Georgia dialect says Habakkuk.
Habakkuk?
Habakkuk.
Habakkuk. I thought it was Habakkuk. So when you said it, I was like, what is she preaching? Did she preach on some alternative?
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2, okay.
And the title of my sermon when I was 11 years old was Consider Your Ways.
Okay. Consider your ways.
Yes.
At 11 years old, did you look into the congregation and see some people being like, consider your ways, you're 11?
Exactly.
What?
But they encouraged me.
Really?
They were, when I think about that time in my life, I am not certain that I may have been theologically correct in my articulation at that time, because as we continue to grow, we continue to study, we continue to learn. Time will give us an opportunity to really come more closer into the revelation of the truth and the intention of Scripture. But at that time,
you weren't thinking that at 11.
No, I was
what you
not.
Just
no,
said. I'm just saying at 11 years
not.
old. At 11 years old, were you thinking of trading your lunch your lunch for somebody else's lunch?
No, at 11 years
you were
old,
that focused.
I was more focused on. I just knew that I felt like God told me that I was supposed to preach, and I can remember just standing in my room in the mirror, just saying, I don't know what this is, but I'm supposed to be a preacher. And it could have been because I saw so many examples. At the time, living in Georgia, the Deep South, I saw so many examples of women in ministry, which was, quote unquote, at that time, kind of technically taboo. Yeah. But to see a woman proclaiming the gospel and then with excitement, that was the other thing. And I think I learned from my mother. She said, whatever you're going to do, you make sure you do it with expression. And as I got older, I understood that expression really meant conviction, to make sure that you are so convicted to the degree that you express it at all costs so that people can be, can really receive it and be transformed by what you say.
Can you take me back to that 11-year-old experience? Though you're in front, was there a couple things that you said that when you're a speaker and the audience starts to react, it's almost like you play into that thing. What was that thing, the first one that you experienced?
Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you that to this day. I am almost 50 years old. I don't remember specifically the thing. What I do remember is a bunch of adults just celebrating me and so happy that I was up there. It was like, oh, she's so cute. Look at her. She's preaching. And I was at the podium and I was, just above the podium where you could see my head, and they had the podium down on the floor. I wasn't, in the pulpit at 11, but they had it down on the floor, and I would just be saying what the scripture said and reading it with enthusiasm and with expression, as my mother said. And, I just remember everybody clapping, and I just felt real good about what I said. What I said, I can't remember to this day. I do believe that my mom may still have my manuscript from that time, though. Yeah, I do believe that.
Did you, when you went into it at that age, a lot of times you think, I've got to do this stuff. It's almost like a homework assignment.
Yeah.
When you were setting up your sermon, was it that way where, hey, I've got to hit 3 or 5 points or whatever it was? Were you thinking that, or were you just thinking, I'm going to go as an 11-year-old and I'm going to share about, say the name again of the book?
Habakkuk.
Got it. I'm going to use you. I'm going to call you every time that I want to say it now, because I've been saying it wrong for my whole life. I just found out that I just had a podcast with the guys, the skateboard guys from that are skateboarding in South Sudan, and they talked about, I gave them a drink. And I was like, oh, I got you a yerba mate.
Yeah.
And they said, no, it's a yerba mate.
Yes.
But my whole life, that's what I thought that it was.
That was a great podcast, by the way. And they
you.
talked about how they stuffed all the leaves down in the cup, and they stuffed them and stuffed them and stuffed them, and then put the water on the top. And the first person, the guest got the opportunity to have the first drink. And I thought that was so profound.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that's so profound.
Well, those guys, I'm interested to see, I can't wait to see the documentary, about their story and the arc of their story, which I thought was amazing. Let's go to you at 7, because at 7 you gave your heart to the Lord.
Yeah.
I remember struggling with this. I think I was 9.
Yeah.
But I remember when the first person said, you got to give your heart to the Lord. I was like, I'm not giving anyone anything. But it seemed like you were already primed for this.
Yes, I was primed for that. And the reason I was primed for that is because we grew up in a family church. And what I mean by that is my grandmother was a sibling of 11. She had 11 siblings. It was 11 of them in total. And one of her sisters started a church. And so we all automatically went to the family church. And so I was in church with my cousins, with my grandma, with my grand-aunts, with, my family members. And so it was my cousin that was the pastor. He was the pastor at the time, which was my grandmother's sister's son. And he would get up there and he would just talk about Jesus with such passion. I mean, he didn't talk about Jesus in a way that made me like, oh, I don't know about that Jesus guy. He talked about Jesus that made me want Jesus. And I was like, and then he would say, Jesus loves you, and you have to know that he loves you. And how dare you not love Jesus back? And I'm like, oh, I want to love Jesus. I don't want to not love Jesus back. And I could just remember sitting there. Now there were some times he got a little fiery that I got a little nervous, of course, because I think that was directed to the adults. But I think he was astute enough at that time to realize he had to preach to the entire church. And I would be there with my mom with my little socks on, with my little ruffles around my socks, just watching and intently and just sucking it in. And I had a sensitivity at that young age that allowed me just to absorb that. And what I'll say to that, Kelly, is I am very grateful to God that I received the gospel in a healthy way, because some people receive the gospel where it's fire, hell, and brimstone, and you're going to hell. And if you walk out the door and get hit by a car, what's going to happen to you? I think, oh my gosh, and it may take something that dramatic to get someone else's attention. Yeah. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I would rather share with you how good God is and how he loves you and his beneficence is constantly shining upon you, and how, he wants you to give his heart to you, give your heart to him, and really just talk about the benefits of that. That's how I would prefer to receive the gospel. And so I received it in that manner. And so I was never scared of God, got scared of God. I was never in a place where I felt like I couldn't do things. My mom didn't even raise me like that. So I still could go to the school dances. I still could do all the things. And I was able to do those things knowing that God loved me. I never thought he didn't. I never thought God was mad at me in any way, even when I made mistakes. I never felt like, oh, he's mad at you and you're not going to make it now because you did X, Y, and Z. I never had that. And I think that sensitivity from being a child really informed who I am today.
Hmm. Do you think that's because of the example of your parents?
I think so. I think so. And I think it was because my mom, um, when I was born, she had not accepted Jesus just yet. And so I was there, in her life, at a very young age. I think I might have been maybe 4 when she received Jesus as her Lord and Savior. And my mom is one of those people, you give her an assignment, she has whatever it is you put to her hand, she's all in.
Yes.
So she was all in, which meant we were all in.
Uh-oh.
Now, my father, he was a locomotive engineer, and so he traveled so much. So my mom really was the steward of us going to church consistently and being there. And then when he was off and happened to be home on that Sunday, he would be there. But my mom was the arbiter of that. And so because she was on fire, we had to be on fire. It was.
So did you guys go from cold, like this happened with my pops.
Uh-huh.
We never went to church ever.
Mhm.
And then my pops found Jesus,
Mhm.
didn't know he was lost, but he found him. And then we went Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and any other time
Let
possible.
me tell you, that's how I grew up in the South. We were in church Sunday morning. We had to go back Sunday night. Then we were there on Wednesday night for Bible study. Then we had choir rehearsal on Thursday. We were back Friday for power night. We were back Sunday, and it just repeated the whole week.
How did that not turn you off though? Because as a kid, sometimes, I mean, I remember with my brother played sports. And there was times where he had to miss practices and sometimes games because we had to go to church. And we didn't, a week before, we didn't go to church.
Yeah.
And now my dad is saying that. So it almost left a little bit of a bad taste.
Yeah. I appreciate the fact that my mother governed that very well. She allowed us to be children. She did not say, well, you can't go to the game on Friday night. She allowed us to participate in all of the school sports, and most of them occurred on Friday night, which was power night. Remember, don't forget that was power night.
Yeah.
And so, on Friday nights during the football season, we were not going to be in church because when we gave our word that we were going to be in the band, it was important to my mom that we honored our word. So since we committed to the band, we're going to be in the band on Friday night. Now, when football season was over, back to church you go on Friday nights, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and then when basketball happened, that would be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. She would let us do our basketball on Tuesdays and Wednesday. But when basketball season was over, back to Bible study, Wednesday night you go. So she governed that very, very well to the degree that we appreciated being in church and we loved God. Now, of course, as we got older, I think myself and my baby sister, we was the ones that we just didn't stray because of our sensitivity to it. And then my other 2 sisters, they still loved God. They still came to church, but I don't think that at that time they had the sensitivity that they have now for the things of God.
What was the turning point for you as far as, I mean, it's at 7 years old, still impressionable. Was there a moment when you gave your heart to the Lord, or was it?
Yes.
What was it?
There was a moment. I remember my cousin, he was up just to preaching, and I was sitting on that front row, and he got excited, and he was like, today is the day to give your heart to Jesus. He's open. He's here. And I was like, oh, if he's here, then I need to run up and give my heart to him because he's here. Because it was the first time I heard him say Jesus is here. He had always talked about Jesus. Or let me say it this way. It's the first time my spiritual intellect actually picked up on it that he said it. He may have said it so many times before, but in that moment, that was the moment that I recall vividly that I heard him say, Jesus is here. I was like, oh, he's in the building? Well, I better run up and give my heart to him. And so I went up and I had my hands up and my eyes closed. And he said, what are you here for, young lady? Now, he knew who I was. I was his cousin, talking about young lady. But he said, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here because you said I could give my heart to Jesus. And he said, congregation, she wants to give her heart to Jesus. And I was smiling as big as I could. And so he prayed with me and we went through a prayer. And after he prayed that prayer with me, he said, now, you're saved, right? I said, I am. He said, yes. I said, so what does that mean? And he laughed, the congregation laughed, because I wanted to know, what does that mean? Saved from what? And he said, well, you're saved. He said, you've accepted Jesus. And he said, saved is a short form of salvation. And he said, and you've received Jesus, and therefore your heart now, you can just trust that when you spend eternity, you're going to spend it with Jesus. And I said, okay, well, thank you. And that was the end of it. But it left such an impact on my life that I never strayed from it. Never. continued to love Jesus all the way through my middle school years, through my high school years, through my college years. It just stayed. It just stayed. And again, I think because it was introduced to me in a very healthy way.
There's twists in plots, and I think that's what makes stories interesting. I think it's what makes movies interesting. We just went and saw have you seen Marty Supreme?
I have not.
Okay. You probably won't because I know you don't watch TV. You said that.
Very rarely.
But Marty Supreme was so interesting with Timothée Chalamet because the plot twist, it was almost like you saw it going this way.
Yes.
The reason why I'm saying this is because with this, to learn about Nichelle, saved at 7, first preaches for the first time at 11, 17 gets ordained. You just think, in my head, this movie, okay, I know the ending to this movie. She goes and she just becomes a pastor of a huge milestone church and lives happily ever after. But you go into IT.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I mean, okay, I literally, as I was walking down your story, I was like, oh, cool, I know this. I can just literally tune out now. And then I got hit with the plot twist of, and she goes into IT and starts down the business world. Take me there.
Okay, well, before I take you there, because you have such an amazing platform, and I can be assured that this is going to be aired all over the world and people know me, I'm going to bring some clarification to a few things. I was licensed at 17. I was not ordained in ministry until I was, I want to say, 37.
What's the difference between licensed and ordained?
So in one denomination that I was in, they would give you a license to preach, because they did not necessarily ordain women. But then when
so the Universal Life Church wasn't then, because see, my friend called me and said, "Hey, I need you to marry me," and I was like, "Man, I don't know what to do." And then I signed up online and I got ordained that quick.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, no, we didn't.
I didn't get the parking pass. The parking pass was actually more. It was $25 more, Nichelle. And I said, and at the time, I was like, I am not spending $25 extra, although I would have got upfront parking. When you got ordained, did you get the parking pass?
No, I did not.
You didn't. Do you have one now?
No, I do not.
Okay. All right.
No, I
so
did not.
Licensed and ordained,
yes,
two different things.
yes.
The license gives you the license to be able to preach.
Yes.
Right.
And then the ordination really substantiates where you go through a series of authentication processes in order to show yourself really approved, to rightly divide the word of God.
Is it
denominational?
Is that denominational?
Each denomination has their own standards of ordination. So like the Universal Life Church clearly has their own standard that I don't
really
know.
High standards.
Yeah. That their standard of rigor, I'm not certain about.
It was wild. It's about 4.5 minutes online.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty strong. I mean, I felt very accomplished when I got done. And
that is awesome.
And you know what's funny is they actually will sell this. Well, you just print out the certificate, but they sell the parking pass, and then they sell the robe. You
what
could
is
buy
the parking?
the robe.
Kelly, what is the parking pass for? I don't understand the parking pass.
So you could park up front at the mall.
Oh gosh.
That's what I'm talking about.
I've never known that.
You didn't know that.
No.
See, that's why
I don't know
here.
anything about that. I don't know anything about
Great.
that.
Like,
I don't have a parking pass.
Have you ever seen the parking spaces that are set aside for clergy?
You know what? In some places I have, maybe like at the hospital or something like that. Yes, I have
Sometimes
seen
it's
that.
at the mall too.
Yeah. Oh, I've never known
seen it
it.
at the mall?
I've never seen
In
it
the
at the
South,
mall. Never. No. You would
in
think in the
Memphis.
South, in
No,
the
I'm
Bible Belt,
saying.
right?
Yeah,
yes,
we were
but
in
no,
Memphis.
I've not.
I believe
that's
that I
not
saw
been
it.
my
I can't-
experience.
It's unsubstantiated. And someone will probably prove me wrong because of the internet. But back in the day, I used to be able to tell someone something, and they would be like, "Oh wow, I heard that too."
Oh my God.
But nowadays, you could check chat.
Yeah. We can fact
and I
check
know
too.
you wanted to fact check because you wanted to make sure that anyone who heard was like, "No, you weren't ordained at 17."
Yes, I want to make sure that is clear.
I want to make sure on that too.
Yeah, and then the second thing, I am not the pastor.
You're the executive
of our
pastor,
church.
or
I am the associate pastor
Yeah.
of ministry, worship, and creative arts.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is when a person hears that, what is the responsibility of the associate pastor as opposed to the pastor?
The senior pastor is responsible for the spiritual leadership, care, and feeding of the entire church. All mechanisms, all leadership, all functions of the church report up to the senior pastor. And he has the ultimate responsibility
Yeah.
to ensure that the gospel is preached and souls are won to Christ Jesus.
And then what about the associate?
And then the associate pastor, my role as the associate pastor of ministry, worship, and creative arts is to assist the senior pastor in curating a worship experience that does allow people to come in and not only praise God, but worship Him in spirit and in truth, and to make sure that all of the functions of the various ministries that falls within the worship and creative arts domain, whether that's liturgical dancing, whether that is poetry, whether that is spoken word or the music, the choirs, I curate and really work with those leads over those mechanisms in the church to ensure that when Sunday morning or any type of, funeral or wedding or whatever happens, that we have the appropriate resources in place to create an atmosphere that God wants to dwell in.
It's incredible to me because to be able to see you and to hear your story, again, when you think about the 7 and then 11 and then 17,
Yes.
we think of that timeline. We think it's going down one road.
Yes.
And with how accomplished you are as the associate pastor, I want to make sure that everybody knows that it's the associate pastor because the senior pastor is going to be mad at me. We'll just have him.
Exactly.
We'll have him on the podcast
Yes.
also. But when a person thinks that, they think, "Wow, okay, that's your whole life."
Yeah.
But I look at it, and that's a portion. And with BreakForth Solutions, you're dealing with large military contracts.
Yes.
You're dealing with the government. You're dealing on a level that is unbelievable. And most of the time, people have to either choose their faith or choose their business.
Right.
But you've actually intersected the two.
Absolutely.
Take me to the IT part because again, I thought the story was going one way, and I wouldn't have thought IT
Exactly.
from the beginning.
Yeah, I didn't either. To be honest, I was very technically adverse. My degree is in public relations and marketing and communications. So I had no interest at all in IT. But what happened was I ended up moving to Northern Virginia, and I joined a company at the time that was one of the top IT contracting and defense firms within the area. And in joining that company, I became a project manager for them. Well, as faith would have it, I wanted more. And so they promoted me and I became a program manager. And guess what? I got the enterprise IT subcontract portfolio. So I had to quickly get myself up to speed to learn IT. And so I went to different network courses because network engineering was my specific discipline at the time. I learned how to pull cable, climb up in the ceilings and the walls, up under the floor at times. I learned everything there was to learn at that time. Networking has changed so much, but I learned what there was to learn at that time. That's when we had Cat 5 cable, for goodness sakes. And so that's how I got into IT. It was just by virtue of a job where I got promoted into being responsible for the enterprise IT subcontract portfolio.
So as things start to work well, not everybody does. Some people think about it, but it takes a special person to step off and then create their own company. Because there's people who are good at working with a company
Yes.
that should continue to
Yes.
work in that company.
Yes.
And they should never do their own.
Absolutely.
And then there's the people that go and do their own. Where did that come from? Where did that thought process come from, and what gave you the permission to do it in your head?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest with you, I don't know that I had permission as much as I had opportunity. And the reason why I say that is because I was the person that I would have stayed at that company. And in my mind, I was going to work my way to the top and I was going to be the president of that company.
Okay.
I mean, large company, it's nationally, matter of fact, it's internationally known. And all I saw in my mind's eye was that I'm going to stay here and I'm going to work my way up. I do believe, in my opinion, that God had different plans because He knows how I'm wired. I am so faithful. If I tell you this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to let my yes be yes. I'm going to let my no be no. And I would have stayed there and given them life, blood, sweat, and tears, But what happened was when I decided that I wanted to be promoted again, there was a circumstance wherein I realized very quickly that it wasn't going to happen. And it wasn't going to happen to the degree that I knew, okay, the time is up here, And I didn't know it was going to happen as quickly as it did, but that time came to a conclusion way faster than I expected. And so when it did, I said, okay, I got to do something. And so because of my reputation of being a person that not only was a self-starter, but that I was also a finisher, many of the clients in my portfolio, when they found out that I decided to part ways with that company, they called me.
Mm.
And at the time, they said, we don't have any openings, but if you would like to consult, we have an opportunity for you. And I said, oh, well, okay. So I started consulting one of the other big contractors, which was a competitor to the company that I left. But what I did, even out of my leaving, I still had a loyalty to the company that I left. So what I agreed to in the consulting is I'll go to any other division but your enterprise IT division. I will not put myself in that situation. And so they agreed. So I ended up going over in missiles and defense. And so I became a consultant over their large scale proposals, if they were bidding anything that was 500 million or higher. I was one of the proposal consultants, and I did that for like a year and a half. And one day I was sitting in a room and somebody said, Nichelle, is your company woman owned? I said, well, I'm a woman and I own it, so yes. And they said, no, are you certified woman owned? I said, I don't understand why I need to be certified. I'm a woman and I own the company. But I did not know that the Small Business Administration had woman-owned small business certifications. And at the time, in order for large defense contractors to bid certain contracts, they had these subcontracting agreements within their proposals that would state that you have to have a certain amount of woman-owned, certain amount of veteran-owned, certain amount of 8A companies in their subcontracting agreements. And so they said, well, if you can get woman-owned certified, we'll bring you on this contract because we need to make sure we meet the agreements. And I said, okay. And hence, that's how BreakForth Solutions started.
The name part of it too was a big one for me when I looked at it. We were just talking about the Four Seasons recently, one of my favorite brands. But do you know what the first name for the Four Seasons was?
I do not.
The Thunderbird.
Oh,
and I'm like, I'm so glad
that didn't land.
That didn't land. That would have been awful. But I want to get a shirt
I would
that
have never
says,
wanted to stay there ever.
I know. Can you imagine? Hey, Nichelle, I'm going to put you up at the Thunderbird. You would have been like,
we would have had a major problem.
No, we're not going to be there. There's a lot in a name, but I think a lot of times there's overthinking in a name.
Yes,
and then there's the natural part of a name. What was BreakForth Solutions?
So BreakForth actually started from a vision that I had when I was living in Buffalo, New York. I will never forget. I was driving down Transit Avenue and I got to a light. And just out of my spirit, I heard something say, BreakForth, it's time for the world to know you. And I was like, BreakForth.
What were you doing at this time? Are you in IT? Or are you in the ministry part of it? Or what are you doing?
I was not in IT at that time. I was calling myself starting a public relations firm while I was in Buffalo, New York. And so that's what I was thinking of. And so my first company was actually BreakForth Consulting.
Okay.
And I was doing some PR work from one of my friends who owned a 8A firm. It was a general services contracting firm that happened to be 8A certified by the SBA.
Okay.
And so that's what I was doing at the time. And I was sitting at the light. It was dark. It had to be around maybe 7 o'clock. And I just heard in my spirit, BreakForth, it's time for the world to know you. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh. And I never let that name go. So I think I've had several companies named BreakForth until we got to BreakForth Solutions. And so the next company that I have currently that still is active is BreakForth Ministries and Consulting Incorporated, which is our 501c3 organization. And that's where I really do a lot of the ministry activities that I do. So preachingwoman.com, as well as NichelleEarly.com, all of those mechanisms fall up under the 501c3 organization.
When you first went into the entrepreneurship, what did you learn? Because there's a learning curve there. We talked about some principles when we first started, before we started recording, and we talked about some of the boundaries that you had. But what were some of the hard-learned lessons as an entrepreneur, especially as a young entrepreneur?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, when I became a CEO, the first thing I realized is, Lord, I don't know how to be a CEO. I I didn't have a reference for that. I didn't have any family members. There was no one in my family at that time that had a business that I could call and say, "Hey, how do I become a CEO?" And what I recall that was funny at the time, well, funny now, it wasn't funny then, was that, when you work for a large defense contractor and you are the program manager and you are over entire enterprise IT subcontract portfolio, you have a contracts manager that reports to you, you have security, you have HR, you have all of the accoutrements of a successful business. You're basically running your own business. And when I woke up and realized that I was president and CEO of BreakForth Solutions, employee number one, and the customer called me and they said, "Can we speak to your facility security officer?" I was like, "Oh, yes, that's me." And then something else came up and it was like, "Well, do you have anyone in HR that you can speak to?" I was like, "Yes, just give me a moment." I would put them on hold and call me.
Did you say it was going to be a different name of a person and
I
then
would
get on?
just,
You
I
would
would
just
just pick
click
up the
them
phone and say, "Thank you for holding."
How
You
long
know?
in did you realize that you needed a team?
Oh my goodness. Probably about
How many hours?
exactly. I felt like hours, but I would say probably about 4 months in, I
Okay.
realized, okay, I can't do this. In fact, well, actually, I take that back. It was probably, I would say 3 months in actually, because April, we won our first $4.5 million contract. Well, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. April, we became 8A certified. It was April of 2016, I think it was.
8A certified.
Yes.
For the person that's listening that has no
SBA
idea.
Small Business Development Program.
Got it.
So the Small Business Administration has a program. It was really designed to be a business development program where they would have certain set aside contracts for small businesses that were trying to do business with the federal government.
Okay.
And so I became 8A certified that April of 2016. And in June of 2016, we won our first $4.5 million contract. And that's when I realized, oh, girl, you in trouble. You better get you some people to help you. And so I engaged a CFO first. And I did that on a fractional basis. And then, of course, I hired a recruiter because I had to recruit all the people that was necessary for that contract. Now, the beauty of it was in my experience eons ago, I was a recruiter. So that part didn't scare me.
Okay.
In fact, I was my own recruiter probably for the first 2 years of the business. But I did hire a recruiter initially to help me. And she helped me get that contract staff. I love her to this day. Her name was Dee, and she helped me get that contract staffed up and ready to go. And so 18 people later, I went from me to 18 people. Woo.
So the
At that time.
ministries was 2009. Am I correct?
The ministry, yes, when we got the 501c3, it was
Yeah.
around that time.
And then
yes.
the solutions, BreakForth Solutions was 2012.
2012, May
Okay.
1st, 2012.
Yeah.
I formed the company at that time.
Yeah.
I was still working with the defense contractor at that time, but I formed
Because
the
you were
company.
consulting. You were
Yeah,
consulting
because
at
I
that
was getting ready to start doing some consulting. And
Got
so
it.
I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, let me just form a company. Not really thinking that it was going to take off the way, not really thinking rather that it was going to unfold the way it did.
What's the
Like-
difference between taking off and unfolding? You stopped yourself.
Well, I'm going to tell you why
Okay.
I stopped myself, because it did not take off until 2016. Remember, I was still working for the defense contractor.
Yeah.
I did not leave there until 2014. So from 2012 to 2014, I had just formed the BreakForth Solutions just to kind of be a company that if I did consulting here and there on the side, I wanted to have a legal mechanism to do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I left the defense contractor in 2016, was it 2016? No, I'm sorry, 2014. When I left that defense contractor, I started consulting. And guess what? I had the structure already in place, And so that made it easy for me to walk into that consulting opportunity. It also made it easy for me to get the Woman-Owned Small Business certification because I already had the corporate structure in place. The reason why I say take off was because it wasn't until we won our first contract in 2016 that the company then began to really grow and expand. And so I had to make some decisions at that point that, okay, are you going to try to continue to consult and grow this company? Because it's no longer a consultancy. Now it's actually a company.
What was the difference, the major difference between the two? And when you're going, talk to us too about the winning of government contracts too, because
Oh,
this is,
yes.
this is a very special
Yes.
It's a specialized skill set too,
Mhm.
because even if you could do work in the secular world, that's not the same as doing work in the governmental world.
It is absolutely not the same as doing work in the government world. Commercial and government, they have their synergies,
Mhm.
but they also have their major differences in how you go about proposing to the government to win contracts to do business with the federal government.
Okay.
So, what I would say to that is, as I was at that defense contractor that I was working for, one of the things they did that made me so frustrated with them is I had this supervisor at the time. He always said to me, "Well, if you want a promotion, we need you to work this proposal. You got to work this proposal." And these are large scale proposals. These are not, "Oh, I'm trying to win a $15,000, $20,000 contract," which are wonderful contracts. I admonish you, if they're $5 and you can win it. That's where I'm at, you know. But these were the reason why I emphasize how large they were, because the proposal response was significant. These are
Mm.
major volumes, and at the time, dating myself, we had to produce like a technical volume, a security volume, a price volume, and you're producing all these large volumes, and you would have to print like 5 or 10 copies and box them up and ship them to the government at the time. And so I would be so frustrated because we would be there all manner of times of night. And I'm like, I get so tired of every time I ask him to get a promotion, or I tell him that I feel like I'm ready to do something different, he tells me I have to work a proposal first. And he did that to me several times. Well, what I did not know is that that experience was very specialized and it served me well.
Mm.
Because when I started my company, what differentiated me from most small businesses, and talking about the technical people that you say shouldn't have a company, I think the challenge, what happens is they have all the technical experience, but they don't get the proposal experience. They don't get the corporate experience. They don't get the business experience. They typically come, what we say in the technical world, hands off keyboard and then try to run a company. Sometimes there's a little bit of a learning curve for that, you know, especially if they were not in a corporate environment to get that experience that's necessary to be able to understand how to propose to the federal government. And that was what made me a little different. I knew how to propose to the federal government. And in fact, the consulting I did when I left the large contractor, that's what I was doing, you know, helping other large companies with those proposals. So if it was not for that skill set, I don't know that BreakForth Solutions would be there. So I have to say shout out to my supervisor. He knows who he is.
Was there frustration points? I was talking with a guy 2 days ago. His name was Michael Dreeben,
Mhm.
and he started in. His uncle grabbed him out of San Diego. He wasn't doing great things, but his uncle lived in Monaco,
Yeah.
and he took him to the top culinary, one of the top culinary institutes there in Monaco. And he started working there, and he thought it was going to be, I mean, it's one of the top French restaurants. He's going to be on top of the world, but they put him in the basement and peeling potatoes.
Yeah. Hmm.
And then what's called tourneau. It was like around, like peeling the potato. It was tourneauing a potato.
Yeah.
As he's going through it, he knew, he had the foresight. I'm doing this. It's a stair step to this next thing. Now, for me, if they would have put me in the basement, I would have been like the Karate Kid saying, "Why are you making me wax the car when I want to learn martial
Wax
arts?"
on, wax off.
Did
huh?
you understand all these little things, or were you getting angry with God at times or wrestling with him a little bit during these processes?
I did not understand all of those little things at all. I did not see how they were going to line up for me. I had no idea that they were going to serve me well. What I knew how to do was serve well. What I knew was that my supervisor said that's where he needed me to be. And so I went down there and I was the best potato peeler that he had, you know. That's really what I knew to do. And so it didn't matter where he put me. I knew that I was going to go and serve in excellence. I was going to be faithful. I was going to learn everything there was to learn about it so that I can ensure the entire team was successful. And so he knew he could depend on me in that manner. If it meant that I had to stay there till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, then so be it. And that's what I did. And so as a result of that, when I look back on it now, I absolutely can see all the breadcrumbs and how I got. But while you're in it, no, I was mad. I was upset and I didn't want to be down there. And I was, because I'm missing things, I'm missing out on family events. I'm missing out on, milestones. And so it was not fun. And I did not appreciate it while I was in it. But what I did was I said, my character has to substantiate this experience by me offering the wholeness of myself as it relates to my honoring of my supervisor, honoring of the mission that is at hand to make sure we get this done. And so I did that. Well, thank goodness I didn't get mad and walk off and say, I'm not going to stay down here, being the book boss of no proposal, because now I can do that and I can do it pretty efficiently, number one. But number two, now I do it for myself where it makes sense and it makes money.
So most of the time people learn a lesson and then the application comes later. It seems like and I've never experienced this at this level. And even in the couple hours that Nikki said she was going to be here and she wasn't, even in that time,
she may not come when you want her, but
I
she's still
know.
always on
She's
time.
always going to be on time. What is it? I'll always be there when you call. I can't remember the song.
Yes.
Now I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
That's what you do to me, Nichelle. But when I talk about it is the application. Most of the time, people will learn a skill, but it takes a while for them to apply it.
Yes.
I think about my kids, my daughter. She'll I'll teach her a lesson, which I'm not really teaching her a lesson, and then 4 years later, she'll be like, "Dad, I got this idea," and it's exactly what I told her to do. But you seem to have this innate ability to learn it, apply it. Did you know that you were applying biblical principles? Because what you just said was give to God what's God's and give to Caesar what's Caesar's. That's what you just did, but you applied it. But that you weren't preaching scripture to that person. You were preaching scripture through your actions. Did you know this was happening while it was happening?
I did not know that was happening while it was happening. I did not. What I did know is that my mom taught me to always be honorable. And, the scripture that says, you let your yes be your yes and let your no be your no. And just making sure I had that center of integrity. My dad used to say something, too, that really has really served me well to this day. He was like, your word is your bond. And he said, and if your name is on it, you better make sure you represent this name. And so I knew I've always gone into everything that I do with that whole notion of, what I'm doing is not just for me. I represent my parents. I represent the sacrifices, the struggles that they had to ensure that I had the education, the experiences, and the life that I now have is really a testament to their tenacity and their ability to continue to push forward. And so when I go into things, most things, I am probably to a fault. I want to be prepared. I want to make sure that I understand what is happening. I like the details because the goal is excellence, in every manner that I can provide that. Not perfection. I don't believe in perfection. Perfection will drive you crazy. Perfection, striving towards perfection will exhaust you. But I do think that if you strive towards excellence and you put a framework in place that allows for that excellence and don't allow that framework to be compromised, then I think you can have great success. And so that was the thing. I just knew my name was on it and I was not going to let me down, my family down. I was not going to jeopardize, what others saw in my character at the time by virtue of me not following through.
Where was a time where you just, as opposed to living through that, you just simply wanted to take your name off of it?
Oh, goodness.
Tell me a specific, take me to a place where maybe you're having to do a proposal and it's 5 different copies. It's the box. You want the promotion and this is happening. And I'm thinking maybe if I just erase my name off this, then I don't have to stay true to that.
Oh my goodness. I have those times now. I don't even have to go back then. I can talk about now. I mean, there have been plenty of times where we do a cursory review of a proposal and I say, oh, this is right up our alley. This is what we can do. Let's get everybody in the room. And then we say, okay, we're going to have a read day where everybody reads this. And we're all gung-ho. I've already, decided, who is going to be my DRI or directly responsible individual, if you will. Who's going to be the DRI on this, that. We've made assignments and everything. And then we do our read. And as we're reading, there are some nuances that we did not see the first time. And I'm like, oh, no. We should not have committed to this. This is not going to go well. And now I have to reevaluate what investments I have to make in order for us to be successful on that proposal. And sometimes, my team don't know. My leg is shaking under the table. I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have got them into this.
Do you back out? Do you back out of that, or do you back out of it, cut your losses, or do you press through because your word was there?
Oh, no. I believe that as long as you communicate, you know what, I gave my word the first time on this and I gave it under these pretenses.
Oh,
I thought this was this, this, and this. I now know that it's not that. So I would like to come back and let everybody do one more read. But these are the reasons why I do not believe we should go forward. And we cut our losses. I'm not going to stand something for the sake of I said this, so we're going to go and lose millions of dollars, right? It costs us a lot of money to produce some of the proposals that we propose. But what we do is a lessons learned to figure out how do we avoid getting to this juncture.
yeah.
So that's when we make sure that we stay true to our bid, no bid decisions and not spend resources and make assignments and all of that when we have not read all of the nuances of a proposal. And I think that comes from making sure that when we look at any work whatsoever, for me as the CEO and as the leader, I have to make sure that my external compass really yields, my internal compass, really aligns with the external opportunities. You know, if there's not alignment, if I don't have conviction that this is what we need to do, if I have not really made sure that I've sat down and lent myself into the situation to evaluate the risk and then to hear from the people that I pay to be around me, to advise me and to give me their notion or their expertise on the direction we need to go into, you know, I just have to make sure that at that point I say, okay, we make sure we stay true to this framework, you know, or otherwise we don't do it at all.
How do you communicate? I mean, you communicate at such a high level, and for the
Thank
last,
you.
it's been probably an hour and a half or something like that, that we got a chance to be able to just sit and talk and experience you. The
Yeah.
cool thing is, and I want to compliment you on this, is when the mic turned on, you didn't change.
Thank you.
And that
Thank
was a
you.
really cool thing for me. You know, and we were sitting here with William and I, and we were asking you questions, and you're answering the questions, and it's coming from your heart.
Yes.
But that also comes from a foundation. We talked about it earlier. It comes from your parents, all the experiences, all the things. When you hire people into your company,
Mhm.
you can't insure, and you can't guarantee, you don't even know what's their foundation is.
Right.
You can ask questions, you can interview, you can do all those things, but there's so much. How do you communicate these type of principles that make so much sense from a wisdom standpoint, from an integrity standpoint, from your upbringing and from your foundation, but doesn't make sense to somebody else? Because maybe they come from a side where their parents are saying, or their environment said, at all costs, squeeze as much money as you possibly can out of this situation, and we just move on to the next one, and then we'll find a new person as opposed to the other. How do you communicate that?
Oh, wow. That is so unfortunate because I think one of my standards is all money is not good money. And so I don't make money only decisions at all. But I think I communicate that in a way when we're hiring somebody within the context of the question is that the first thing I do is share with them the culture of BreakForth Solutions and what that means within our organization. Because what I'm really seeking, their resume tells me what their experience are. I can pretty much read a resume and know what I'm getting for the most part, if they've been factual on the resume. Now, I'm going to take that out when I'm speaking to them. So they don't, you know, you're not really
Do you
good.
test it from a resume standpoint and ask questions that maybe would expose if, you know, are you doing that?
I wouldn't
You're not in
necessarily.
the interview process, though,
Yeah,
are you?
yeah. No, I'm not at this
No,
point.
I
Thank
wouldn't think
goodness I'm not. If they are coming internal to BreakForth, because we have two types of personnel at BreakForth Solutions. We have the internal, what we call back office, and that's our HR, human resources, our contracts, our legal. We have finance, business development, CTO, recruiting team, talent acquisition. Trying to make sure I don't miss anybody because I know they're going to hear this and I'm going to have a problem.
I love the detail at which
But
you
all of
flow
our
with.
functional-
Seriously. It's amazing.
All of our
Your
functional
pastor is, your senior pastor, I'm sorry. Your
yes.
senior pastor is very happy with you, too.
He is. I
Right
believe.
now, he's happy
I
with
hope
you,
so.
too.
I very much hope so. But we have our back office team. I am involved in those because it's important for me to know who's going to be in the office area every single day in that environment and what are they bringing to that environment and how is their presence going to impact that environment one way or the other. If I'm sitting in an interview, because again, if they're coming internal, I am likely going to at least do the last interview. even if it's just a pop in, say hello, introduce myself as the president and CEO, and give them an opportunity to ask me whatever question they want to ask before they commit to
What
us.
are you looking for in that scenario? Because there's times where there's little tells. I love watching gambling movies, or I love these kind of things because there's always little things that.
Yes.
What are the little things that Nichelle sees that maybe people weren't even aware of that they were doing?
I am always looking, can somebody look me in my eye? Because if you can't look me in my eye, then for me, that tells me that there's something that you are basically trying to kind of potentially hide from me. That's not always 100% accurate, but I do look for that because I think eyes are the windows to the soul.
Yeah.
And if you're talking to me and looking me in my eye, it gives me an opportunity to really be very discerning about what you're saying. And is it coming from that authentic place that we talked about? And so I'm typically looking for, them looking me in my eye. I'm also looking for, when I ask you a question, can you answer me from your expertise? Because now you can't hide behind Chat GPT to talk to me. You have to talk to me. And now I get to really hear, what is the level, what is the dimension of what you're getting ready to bring into this company? And that could be as simple as me asking you, how was your commute over here? And if you complain about all the lights, and the traffic was just terrible, but I made it, then I already know you're not a good fit, because that complaining spirit, if you complaining when I asked you that one thing, you're going to complain likely about everything in here. That's the center of who you are. And again, you have to have the wherewithal to kind of know what the environment is, read the room, and understand who you're speaking to and what is being asked of you. I also am looking for character. I may ask a simple question. So when was the last vacation you had? And they tell me about their vacation. How often do you take vacation? Well, if you tell me, well, I try to go on vacation every single quarter, at least a week or two every single quarter, well, I already know that's not going to work for us because you don't get but 3 weeks vacation, at BreakForth Solutions. And I can't have you gone every 3 months if you're coming into a critical role. Now, we believe wholeheartedly in you taking those 3 weeks vacation that we give you, because that really is a part of our culture statement at BreakForth Solutions. But I can't have you gone 6 weeks out the year, because that's not going to serve us or our customers well. So, it's just little things like that I'm listening for when I'm speaking to you. But most importantly, it's your integrity. How do you comport yourself? If you are relaxed and, putting your foot on the table, so to speak, with me, how are you going to behave with my customers? Because there is a certain way we comport ourselves. There's a certain way we show up in our image. There's a certain way. And let me say that differently. I said image, but I really would say there's a certain way we show up in our identity, because identity and image are two different things.
Help me.
Your identity is who you are. It is when your will, your emotions, and your spirit and your experience all align, and there's a sense of oneness about that. Your image is what you want people to believe about you. I don't need your image. What I need is an alignment with who you are, in concert with the mission that we're trying to offer to our customers. And so image, I don't care if you come in here with Ferragamo shoes and belt and all, but if you can't do the work, and if you don't do it in integrity, and if your yes can't be your yes, then this is not the right environment for you, because after a point, there will become a friction and a tension, because you will then move into grinding versus having a spirit of grit.
Help me with that too.
When people grind, it's just like the word says, it's like a grinding knows no limits. Grinding does not know discipline. Grinding is do whatever it takes to get what you get. And grinding, oftentimes, because of the exhaustive nature of it, it'll push you to a place of compromise. But grit actually knows limits. Grit knows discipline. Grit says, all right, we've pushed this as far as we can go. Let's get some rest. Because grit doesn't make you feel like you're compromising or that rest is weakness. Grit does not make you believe that because you've delegated something that, you are not loyal in any way. Grit says, I know how to step back, evaluate so that my next decision is an intelligent decision.
Can you produce grit in people?
You know what? I think that there is a certain foundation of character that's necessary. And then, yes, because grit is disciplined. And so if I tell you, hey, here's the system, here's the standards, this is how we move, here are all of the documents that you need, here's our processes, here are the procedures, here are the boundaries in which I need you to operate in. If you operate in these things, you will be successful, because these are time tested and they are proven. Doesn't mean we win every single time, But what we can say is, I mean, because sometimes we will have, I mean, it just recently happened to us before I got on the plane to come here. We got a call back from a contracting officer that said, you all were unsuccessful in winning this proposal. And I'm like, what? and we didn't lose on technical. In fact, we were highly rated on technical. We didn't lose on past performance. We lost on price because there was a price that we tendered that we know we can staff and do the work at. Someone bid lower and they went with that company. Well, you know what? We accept because, you know, we can't compromise value because our value really informs how successful we're going to be.
From the proposal to the acceptance or winning, I love this.
Yes.
What is that rate for you in your company?
What do you mean?
As far as the amount of proposals you put out and the amount that you win, what's the percentage?
Oh my goodness. I would say we probably have about a 70% win rate right now.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty decent because we don't chase every single thing that come across our desk. We do our capture. We make sure that we have intelligence. We make sure we put boots on the ground in terms of going and meeting with the customer, understanding their pain points, understanding the hot buttons, making sure that we've done our requirements gathering to the degree that we really understand the work. If we can't really dot our I's and cross our T's on that, or if it's not a customer space that we're familiar with, we likely are not going to chase that work. I'm not wasting resources on that, you know. So the thing for us is making sure that we understand the work, that we have proper past performance, and making sure that culture is one that aligns with who we are as an organization. There are certain government agencies that we're not doing business with right now because it's not in alignment with who we are in the DNA of our organization.
So when we were in Chicago, there was a couple of places that we wanted, but it didn't come about. I was frustrated at the time. But when I look back on it, I was so glad that we didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have there been times like that for you as far as contracts?
Oh, yes. There's been times where we have bid, you know, $60 million, $70 million contracts. And even when we got through, sometimes they do what they call phased acquisitions. By the time we got to like phase 2 of the acquisition and you're in the room and they want you to do orals and briefings, you know, with the customer, and maybe you have the program execution or what they would call the government task managers in the room. And you'll have one that is just trying to do gotcha questions every turn, just, you know, rude in the tone and all. And you're like, okay, what he's demonstrating is what we're going to get if we win this. Does this person seem like a person that we can partner with? Because one of the things that differentiates BreakForth Solutions is that we come in to partner with our customers. We don't come in to tell them what to do, even though we likely know. I mean, we do know. We absolutely know.
I like how that stair step went. It went from we most likely know to we know.
We do know.
Okay.
We absolutely know.
Yeah.
But our goal is to partner with them because there are oftentimes things we may not know. You know, there are things and nuances in the environment that they know that we do not know. And so for us, partnership is the key to come in to make sure that if we really partner with this customer and understand what they do, why they do it, and what is the impact of what they do, or understand why it's not working for them, they may have an opinion that we did not consider why something is not working. And so once we understand that, then we can come up with a solution set that really will allow them to be successful because they have someone they have to report to, and allows us to be successful. And then what it does is it substantiates our reputation so that they can say, you know what, we like that BreakForth Solutions company. They did this for us. We should bring them back for this.
How important is it to get the first contract as far as, because from what I've understood, it's very much like buying and this is a bad connection, but buying a Ferrari. When you go to the dealership, you can't buy a Ferrari unless you've bought one before.
Oh, really?
They won't allow you to buy one off the lot if you haven't bought one before. But
well, then how do you ever get to buy one?
Exactly. So you actually have to go and buy a pre-owned one and show that you're a Ferrari enthusiast, and then you can buy.
Okay.
Which is the wildest thing.
That is the
wildest
thing. This
was the same thing with Hermes, because my friend was a very good friend, was the general manager of one of the highest producing in the country, and the Diamond Birkin. Yeah, you can't just go into the store and buy the Diamond Birkin.
That's right.
You have to be invited to buy $175,000 to $350,000 purse. Oof. You have to be invited. from what I understand, it's very much like that in government contracts. Don't worry about it, William. It's fine. That camera is not on. So it doesn't matter, in these situations. The first one is so important, and once you get in, is it easier to get the second one?
No, not necessarily. That's
Really?
and I don't know
So
that.
that's a misnomer then.
I would think that is a misnomer. What I think the spirit of what you're saying, that I can speak to, the element of truth is the government does business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Got it.
And so the courting cycle, if you would, with the government typically is anywhere between 12 to 18 months before they like you enough to give you an opportunity.
Wow.
Um,
So that's
most-
a lot of
yeah.
runway. That
It
you
is
have
a
to
lot of
have.
runway. Yes, absolutely. And you have to be disciplined. You have to have systems and structure in place to make sure you do all of the things, making sure you follow up. Sometimes we make sure we go to events where they are so they can continuously see us. We make sure that when we're in rooms, we show up as thought leaders so that they can know that, okay, I've heard that BreakForth Solutions name again. They may know what they're talking about. We make sure that we invest in certain, circles that they are in, just to make sure that we continue to get the name recognition along with the reputation of excellence and success that we've garnered by being in other agencies, which we call that past performance. And so I've gotten in several agencies that I had never done business before, but it was purely off of continuing to make sure that, they have what they call, sources salts, or either they call them RFIs, requests for information. They don't yield you contracts at all. They just give you an opportunity to respond to a problem set. We constantly respond to those. And many times we've gotten calls to say, hey, would you come in and talk to us, just because we respond to something that did not yield monetary results.
What advantage would you give to a secular company in speaking to them that they couldn't get by simply being in their world? Like your side and the government contract side would give them insight into this, and you can apply this principle in your company, and it would, help you to be able to grow.
So what insight I would give to a secular company that would allow them to apply.
Am I saying that in the right way when I say secular, meaning
a commercial company?
a commercial company?
Yeah, we can go commercial.
That's dealing with a contract of, say, like, and I've understood the two. We've got a contract out right now with the federal penitentiary system.
Yeah.
And then I have a contract out with a privately held company.
Yes.
Completely different.
Yes,
I'm having
absolutely.
a conversation with a guy who I've known for 30 years. We're talking about his daughter. We're talking about all these things. In the other side, it's not as personal.
No, it's not.
It's very
Most of them.
structured. What is the
Yes.
price? Where's the value?
Yeah,
What are
yeah.
you going to deliver? How are you going to deliver it, and go that way?
Yeah.
If you were talking to the commercial side, what insight would you give to that CEO that maybe they wouldn't get?
Yes. I think the first thing, and I guess I would assume you're asking me insight if they want to do business with the federal government.
No, just in their own.
Just insight
Yeah,
on
just
their,
because
on their own.
Well, when I was saying it, it's like this. Most of the time, people study their own businesses.
Okay, got it.
They study their own industries, which I think
Yes.
is the worst thing you can do.
Yes.
I think if you're in the restaurant industry, I think that you need to study hotels.
Yes.
If you're in the hotels, you need to study somebody else.
Yes.
And it gives you a cross culture and helps you to understand the customer that is enjoying the Four Seasons
Yes.
is also going to enjoy a restaurant at this level.
Yes.
So that restaurant should study the Four Seasons. It shouldn't study the restaurants down the street.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Yeah, and I think you just stole my answer. I would definitely encourage, commercial companies to, really cross-pollinate as it relates to different domains to make sure they know a little bit about everything. For us, we are not necessarily a artificial intelligence company by any means, but we know a little bit about it because of the fact that we are a cloud company. Most of what we do is Amazon Web Services cloud and a little bit of Azure, but we're mostly cloud. AWS cloud when it comes to what we do for many of the agencies standing up, cloud landing zones and things of that nature. But it's necessary for us, because we're in information technology, to make sure that we're multidisciplined in our knowledge, because all of them typically have touch points. And so I would say the same thing to a commercial company. If you are in marketing, I think it would be essential that you know a little bit about public relations, or if you are in, any type of, anything that has some form of a technical discipline. I think we all need to know a little bit about artificial intelligence now, because it tends to be the thing in the technical world that right now is the shiny toy and getting all of the attention. At one time it was big data, so the pendulum constantly swings. And so I think keeping yourself malleable to the degree that you can touch on different domains, like the hotel industry, for instance, or general contracting for interest, for emphasis, I would do that. I think there are adjacencies to every domain. And it's up to us as CEOs to know what those adjacencies are. For us, we're a government contractor, we're in IT, but most of our customers are law enforcement. And so I have to keep my ear to the ground on what is going on in law enforcement. What are the high points? What is happening? What technologies they're going to need to meet certain missions that they have? Am I law enforcement? No. But do I make sure I go to law enforcement events so that I can understand what technologies that they may need and how they can serve the community better? Yes.
What about when you're taking and when you're talking about the different disciplines? What about when you're connecting with the people inside of it and the leadership? So when you're talking on the leadership side, how do you, most of the time, a high functioning leader has so many things going on that when they hear a concept from you, they say, "That is awesome, Nichelle."
Yes.
For you.
Yes.
But I've got the CFO breathing down my neck. I'm the CEO. I've got the founder. I've got possibly the shareholders. This leadership thing, I understand. Yeah, it sounds good. I don't have any time for it. What do you say to that person?
What I say, well, first of all, I wouldn't necessarily try to advise that person. I would try to understand why they don't have time for it. Because when I know your why, I know what to give you. If I don't take the time to have a conversation with you to understand why you feel that way, so my first thing is diagnostic. I would just say to him, is there a better time that we can sit down? Because I would like to understand the why behind what is the bottleneck taking up your time, that you don't have time for conversations anymore. If you don't have time to understand that there are resources that actually may benefit you. I'm very leery of CEOs or business owners that when you say, "Hey, have you considered this?" and they start telling you what they already got, what they already do. We already got that. And they're not even listening for the fact that I'm actually extending something to you if you listen to me closely. Most people, they get real close-minded because they take any type of advice or any type of idea that you offer people. Sometimes people take that as a defense and they get insecure because they think you think that they don't know what they're doing. When in fact, I think you know what you're doing. That's the only reason why I'm having a conversation, to hold out something to you. We don't cast our pearl to swine. So if I'm offering you something, it's because I know there's a there there. If I don't think there's a there there, why would I spend time putting my talent in the ground?
Is there, on all levels, when I love how you do this, you do it so masterfully. Is there always a principle behind the system?
I am very principled. I am very, very principled. I am very systematic in how I move, probably to a fault. Sometimes I need to lighten up.
Well,
But
what makes your belly laugh?
oh my goodness. YouTube shorts with dogs doing crazy stuff they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
I love to laugh. I love to. I'm not necessarily at my core a humorous person.
Yeah.
I have.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because my whole entire family is funny, and they spend so much time being funny until I spend too much time laughing. So I didn't ever really develop that whole humor thing.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, they are funny. Like, they're naturally core and core through and through funny people.
Did
my
you
dad,
see
my sisters.
Did you see challenges with it? Because you're such a focused person.
Yes.
Did you see challenges where you were saying maybe they're funny to a fault where we need to get some stuff done?
Well, I think I'm the arbiter in the family that does bring that calm to say, okay, now enough, y'all. Y'all stop playing. It's time for us to make some decisions about such and such. I am the person in the family that does that.
When did you start to realize that as a kid?
I think.
Was there specific instances where you saw, like, hey, we're in this situation. You guys have been playing too much. I'm going to lock in and go get this thing.
Yes, and I think that was when my mom had my baby sister. My mom was really sick afterwards. I was 8 years old, and she had a lot of significant complications behind that pregnancy. And so when she brought my baby sister home, again, my dad was a locomotive engineer, so he was always gone. I had to grow up real fast. So I would go get the baby while she, if she was really sick and just was having a hard time, I'd be bringing her ice chips, trying to handle the baby, and so I had to learn to cook really early. So I would go in there and I'd be like, my other sister, I'd be like, okay, do you want brownies today? Because that's what we're doing. And I would make brownies. I would just make anything that was simple. And again, I probably shouldn't have been in the kitchen at 8 years old, handling the stove and stuff. That probably was not right. But there was an opportunity to serve my mother, number one, because she didn't have the capacity to do it. And there were people that end up coming over. I can remember one lady from the church that just adored my mother, and my mother adored her. In fact, she became my sister's godmother. She would come over and, of course, do the heavy lifting, the dinner and stuff. But during the daytime, I would be the person when I got home from school, taking care of my mother and taking care of my sister. And I think those things really kind of, really became the catalyst for me really paying attention to leadership over time, as well as I'll go back to the church. If those adults would have told me, no, you're not going to get up here and say nothing, you're a child should stay in a child's place, I may not have ever developed the acumen to stand in front of people and speak to this day. But because I was in a church that was open, because they gave me opportunity, because I had an opportunity to hone my speaking skills at that time, here I am today. And I think that trajectory likely would have turned out so much differently had all of those things not happened.
I think it's an incredible thing. I said masterful quite a few times because the way that you connect the two of them is masterful.
Thank you.
Sometimes people don't know how to turn one on, turn the other off. You said it earlier. You said, they're constantly both on.
Yes.
But I can't wait for you to watch this back because there's differences in your body language when you talk about work,
Yes.
when you talk about your family,
Yes.
and when you talk about your faith.
Yes.
There's
I agree.
3 different humans. And I'm experiencing them
I
right
think
now.
it's 3 different flows and 3 different essences.
No, it's
that
3
I flow
different
from.
humans.
You think so?
Absolutely,
Okay, I'll go with it.
No, I'm
All
saying
right.
like 3 different flows. But when I'm saying this, like watching it, it's such a.
Yes.
But they're all intertwined.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that is very true.
But most of the time, people can't come out of like if they start in the faith, they can't come out of that.
Yes.
But you are masterful at
Wow.
your language when you're talking about leadership.
Yes.
The essence of it is faith.
Yes.
But I don't hear the vernacular because the vernacular sometimes shuts people off.
Yes. Yes.
And then when you go into the faith, the vernacular, you're not talking business because sometimes that shuts people off.
Yes.
Do you do that on purpose?
I think.
Do you know you do it?
You know what? I think it is from that principle when you're in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Yeah.
And so if I'm in this domain, I'm in this domain. It has my focus. When I'm in the spiritual domain, it has my focus. When I'm with my family, it has my focus. And so, for instance, when I go out to eat with my family, I don't have my phone with me. I turn it off because I'm not going to do business when I'm doing family. Only if I travel and I go home and it's during the business day, I might have my phone on just to make sure it's not a customer calling or my staff calling me to tell me something significant has happened that warrants my attention. But beyond that, I'm with my family. And so I make sure that I keep those boundaries. I think there are things that we have to have what I call pre-decisions. We have to make a pre-decision concerning our standards, our boundaries, and our non-negotiables. And so when I'm with my family, it's non-negotiable that you're going to call me and start a whole conversation about anything unless I've kind of carved out that window of time to say, hey, this is a good time to give me a call.
How did you develop the non-negotiables? Because I think there's so many people that say, oh, that's a non-negotiable, but they just made it up right then because something offended them. You know what I mean? But in your and what I want people to understand is sitting with you. I got to sit with you with the mic off.
Wow.
So when we were talking, when we're not recording anything, the essence was still there. You were telling me about the non-negotiables. You were telling me about those things. But where would one start to set up their non-negotiables as opposed to, because you talked about the emotional side as opposed to principle side.
Yes. I think we start before the pressure arrives. You have to have your non-negotiables in place before the pressure arrives. Because if you don't, then you'll be reactionary. And pressure has a way of really causing things that you may not intend to bubble up out of you that will bubble up. But if you have your prerequisites, your non-negotiables, your standards, and your principles in place, then when the pressure comes, you know how to navigate the pressure.
I would like
You know how to
think,
react and respond to
I
the
would
pressure.
love to think that you're just the wisest person on the planet. But
Me
I
too.
would hope, Nichelle, that there was times where you didn't have these in line.
Exactly.
And then pressure came. Take me to one of those. Because if you don't, then you're
Yes.
Superwoman and
Oh
we're
my
going to put a cape on
gosh.
you.
Oh my
And you're going to fly
gosh.
around the country and you're just, or the world and just getting adventures.
Yes.
But please tell me of a time.
Oh, there are like millions of times.
Okay, choose one.
Okay, let me just think of one off the top of my head. I think as a businesswoman, I have to be very careful. And I think because of
No, specific.
No, I'm going
Okay.
there. I'm coming.
All right.
I'm coming around the corner. I
Come
want to
to
give
me.
you context.
Okay.
I think because of some of what some would call success of the business, there's oftentimes this notion by people that encounter me that, oh, she's just a walking money bag and we can just ask her for money and she's going to, boom, give us money right then and there.
Yeah.
And typically,
Okay.
I try to have my, again, my pre-decisions in place, my standards in place to say, no, I don't make decisions on the spot about that. This is what needs to happen. And as I shared with you earlier, if you're not careful and you don't hold to those things, any catalyst, fear, excitement, all that can cause you to compromise those things. And so I've had situations where that has happened to me, especially when I'm tired. That's the one thing I say to me. Don't call me when I'm tired and I'm asleep to ask me about anything. Because I might tell you yes, and then I wake up, I'm like, what did I just sign up
So
for?
nieces and nephews, if
Yes,
you're out there,
yes.
call her when she's tired.
Exactly.
Call auntie when she's tired.
Exactly.
But when did you, like the tired part? Give me a time where you were tired, you made a decision, and it bit you in the tail.
Oh my gosh, gracious. I had a time where someone called me and I was resting and they said,
I think of you resting, like just completely calm.
oh
in
no,
one
I
place
wish
looking-
that was the
Oh,
case. I'm like my foot all out of the
Okay,
cover.
all right, thank you.
I'm all contorted in every way because my body is so tired from everything I've carried all day long.
Well, because I've never heard someone say, somebody called me when I was resting. I've never heard, what the hell is that? Now, I know you're a
when I
structured
was achieving
woman.
my respite.
Yes, when I was in REM,
REM sleep.
Okay, so you were ugly sleeping, and
Yes,
somebody
ugly
called
sleeping.
you. And somebody called you. What did they ask?
They asked that I come speak at this function. And in fact, it was somewhat of a podcast, but they wanted me to show up in person. And I said yes. And
Like a snap yes?
yes, I said, sure. I said, I would love to. I said, send me the information and I'll get back to you. And they sent me the information. What I did not know was that it was a function that really was a platform for people who were not for women in ministry. And now I've committed. So now, basically, I've given my word that I was coming because if I had not come, it was just one of those things where they want to put you on blast. Oh, she was scared to come on this platform. So now I'm like, oh, and I don't believe in defending. The gospel needs no defense. The gospel is the gospel all by itself. So I don't have to go defend the gospel. But what I did go on that platform and do at the time was I decided to remain very calm because the one thing that I've learned over time, this didn't happen overnight, over time is that you are responsible for your own emotional regulation and you have to have governed calm. Because if you don't operate from a space of governed calm and allowing that peace to be your center, people will push you over the edge because people be peopling. And you will find that you feel like, you know what, it is absolutely necessary that I tell you what my experience of you is right now. And so I went on there and I let him rant and rave about women in ministry and, how they're supposed to serve and blah, 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 blah. And I let him carry on. And then I finally said to him, so if your mother was on her deathbed and there was only one person in the world to share the gospel with her and it was me, would you allow it? And he couldn't say anything. I said, because would you just as well prefer she burn in hell because of your position on this? What is your position on this? Well, I would go find, I said, you can't find anyone. I am the only one left. What is your position on this? Does your mother have to spend eternity in hell because she didn't accept Jesus according to what you're spewing on here? You know, because he had done said, you know, I was going to hell and all this stuff. So since he evoked hell, I figured we was taught from that framework, you know, and so, you know, I just met him where he was. And so he cut the podcast and I was able to leave, and I don't know what happened next. And I never went and listened to it.
And
it was terrible.
When you got home from this experience, William, you could grab the chair over there too if you want. When you got home from this experience, are you a note taker? Do you write it down and then it becomes, because I'm trying to find a place where you're not systematic. Like I have, and just literally since I met you, now I know where you're not systematic is in your parking. I saw you roll up on a car and you open the door. Like I was like, there's no way.
I was like, there's not enough space for me to get out.
I knew that car was close. You were really close. And I was like, is she really going to try and open it? Because there's no way to open that damn door.
It was no way.
And then you backed up and you went like, 3 times into the thing. When you did.
Was it 3 times? It was not 3 times.
You adjusted 3 times.
Well, it was 3 times.
We're going to go to the tape. I got video out there and everything.
Well, everybody in my family knows me know I don't like to drive.
Okay.
So, you know, that's not a secret.
But, okay, so.
My daddy's going to be upset, though, because he prides himself on the fact that he taught us all how to drive. And he always says when he's somewhere, I taught all my girls how to drive. They can drive a freight train through an alley wall. You know, that's his thing. So now that, you know, that has been jeopardized by Kelly Cardenas on the Kelly Cardenas show.
Well,
Nichelle can't park.
Well, we want to make sure. We want to make sure that people know that you're human is what it is.
Yes, I am all human.
Okay, so on that,
yes,
in my head of what I know Nichelle, and I'm limited, but I'm gaining a capsule of it. Nichelle tonight gets back to the hotel. She takes out her notebook. She color codes a system on how to pull into a parking spot. So that way, the next time when she comes in, she is so efficient that she does not lose that 2.5 minutes that it took to be able to park that car in the next one. In my head, that's the way it goes. Is that the way that?
Nope, not at all. Nichelle is an introvert by nature. She just happens to have external giftings. So when Nichelle gets back to the hotel, she's going to be purely exhausted from this experience. And she's going to be like, let me take these clothes off. Let me take this ponytail off. And I'm going to get in my bed.
And I'm going to rest.
And I'm going to get my rest.
I'm going to get rest.
I get my rest.
I feel like you just rest. But
I'm going to drink me a hot cup of tea and I'm going to get my rest.
The systematic part is a huge thing to me, right? Yes. So what I learned, and this could be completely wrong, is that our systems became a list of our screw-ups, basically. When you give people freedom to be able to innovate in their space, then they screw up, and then you write it down and you say, I don't want to do that again, and how can we make it more efficient in the future? What is your process when you're going through systems like that?
Well, first of all, when I look at my systems, I don't see them necessarily as a list of my screw-ups as much as I see them as the framework of discipline that provides my protection. And so I make sure that if I have a situation that has happened to me that did not go the way that I feel that served me well or did not allow me to serve well, then I'm looking at that to say, what are my lessons learned from that so that this does not ever happen again? Because if I allow my discipline to be jeopardized in any way, then I don't show up well. And the important thing for me is, I said this to you earlier, the Jesus in me may be the only Jesus somebody ever sees. And so I have to make sure that I have really worked on my internal self to ensure that I am aligned to the degree that no matter what happens, you know, even if I might feel a little shaken on the inside, that it does not manifest itself externally to the degree that someone says, well, you know, people say this thing that I don't think is the right thing to say. I thought she was a Christian. Just because I might not show up well don't mean I'm not a Christian. It just means that I had a moment that I did not show up well in a moment of weakness. But I try to make those few and far and in between.
What about the pressure? Because what and I've heard it as we've talked throughout is sometimes when you're living at the standard the systematic way, that when you're talking about making sure that that there's protection modes in place and all those things, there's pressure in that too. How do you not transfer that pressure onto other people that you come in contact with? Because sometimes when you hold yourself to a high standard, subconsciously, you can do that to others.
I think one, I spend a lot of time trying to make sure I know who people are. Because when you know who people are, you don't put expectations on people that they cannot meet. And so I try my best to spend enough time with people to evaluate their capacity so that I don't transfer something on them that they can't handle. You know, my goal is to ensure that I keep people around me that are there to support me, support the company, support each other in movement. And if we allow the weight and the pressure to become to the degree that it not allow them to get the traction that they need to be moving, then if you can't even move forward, how will you accelerate? And so I think that if we are not careful, we have to understand that, you know, pressure is not a catalyst necessary for necessarily all the time for accelerations. I mean, there are some instances it is. My dad would say so with trains and steam and all of that. But I would say if you put so much pressure on people that it immobilizes their genius, then what good does that serve you or the organization or that person?
Something just clicked in the last couple minutes too, is your ministry side. Because again, when we were talking about this, most of the time people either choose ministry, they choose business. You have aligned both.
Yes.
Did you do it on purpose, that you're building leaders that ultimately, so it would make your job easier if you ever hired those people?
Yes, I would say so. I was very intentional about BreakForth culture. Very intentional. It's documented when they come in the door. That's the first thing I talk about. I tell them, well, you know, welcome to BreakForth. I'm glad after I get to know them, find out how I say, well, I'm sure you'll hear in your orientation about our Propel culture. And I told them Propel is an acronym that we use to describe our culture in a very, brief way. And the P in Propel stands for People Matter. That is the foundation of everything we do. We will never intentionally set out to do harm. Our first act of service to you is to do no harm. The R is responsibility is key. That means that not only do we expect you to be responsible, but as a company, we have a responsibility to you to make sure we create the environment that's necessary for you to be success. The O is open door policy. My commitment to you is that I will communicate. This is two-way communication. There is not an instance where something happens to you professionally or in your personal life that you cannot come in my office and talk about. The next P in Propel is perform at peak performance. You know, we're looking for peak performance. You know, bring your best self to work. And if there's an instance where you cannot do that, we have employee assistance programs, we have human resources, but you also have my ear. And whatever resource you need, if you feel like it's a desk that's not ergonomically sound for you, let me know that so we can get you the resources you need for you to be successful. Let me see, PROPE, you know, expect great results. I think expectation is so critical because expectations align with our faith. Faith informs our expectations. Whatever you can put your faith in and really believe that you can accomplish it. All things are possible to them who believe. And so we expect people to come in and expect great results. And then the last L in our Propel culture at BreakForth Solutions is live, love, laugh, and take your leave. You know, we want you to, I don't know, there are instances where work-life balance is not true. There are some times where work is going to work, and there is time where life is going to be lifing. And we try to make sure we're the type of organization where we understand both.
When was the last time life was lifing for you?
Life is always lifing for me. Life is constantly lifing for me.
Most people would look on the outside and see BreakForth Solutions. You alluded to it earlier, where a person will say, "Oh, her business is doing amazing.
Yeah.
She's getting these government contracts. She's dealing with all these incredible figures.
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm going to call her up because I'm going to Disneyland, and Auntie is going to take care of everything. But call her when she's tired." But I don't think many people understand, unless you have an entrepreneurial journey, that the things that seem to be aren't always that.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Specifically, where has life been lifing recently?
Life has been lifing really in my health, because sometimes you can pay such attention and have such critical focus on the work and the mission and the responsibility of knowing that you're not just a leader of yourself, you are the leader of everybody. So that's why I am very, very, very committed to making sure that leaders understand that there has to be an inner alignment in order for you to really be able to carry the weight of, a business, especially when it starts to grow to the degree that the businesses I have grown to. And so for me, I've had lessons in that I have to take a little bit more responsibility of, certain environments I go in, if I know that, my immune system sometimes can be weak because I'm tired, then okay, put on a mask. Who cares what people think or say? I've kind of been past the caring what people think or say, but just that extra responsibility of, knowing that put it on because you can't afford to be sick because you got 3 proposals and you got to travel here and you have to do that. And so I think recently I got really sick. It was to the point that I was in the hospital on Christmas Day. It was terrible. It was the most awful experience ever. I thought I was having a heart attack. And so I ended up in the hospital on all of Christmas Day. And it just was a wake up call to say, okay, you have a lot on your plate. You have a lot going. And that's where I go back to my standards where you have to treat people how to deal with you or they will make you compromise your standards. And so I've said yes to so many things that I probably should have said no to. Just because my natural propensity in my heart is I always want to help. I always want to give. I always want to do. If I can be there, I want to be there. I've always been a very touchable person. You were asking me about church and staying and talking to people. I am extremely touchable, which I think goes a long way with people. Sometimes people think, oh, they're successful, you can't say anything to them, or, oh, you got to call, if you need to call me, you can call me. You don't have to go through 10 assistants and all of that stuff, but I do have to put structure around the time that I'm available, because sometimes if I allow too many things or competing interests to access me, it drains me and it makes me tired and then I get sick and et cetera, et cetera. So I think for me, life has been lifing in the fact that I think it's an alert for me to now know that 2026 is the year that I have to invest more time in my health and well-being.
How are you doing that?
I'm going to the spa.
Okay.
I'm going to.
Is there a resting room?
It better be, because I have to be there with my cucumbers on my eyes resting.
I always thought that there should be, and I told my wife this. Now I think they have them, but I said there should be in the airports. There should be a place called nap time.
Well, there are. They have these little pods you can go in, but I would never go in those pods.
That was my idea back in the day, and my wife was like, "That is the dumbest idea." And it probably would have. I mean, I probably would have been at the time, but there now is. You wouldn't go in the pod?
No, I wouldn't go
because
in the
of the
pod.
germs.
That's right.
Are you a germaphobe?
Not necessarily.
Are you
but,
like a sanitize your hands
I
after
am.
every single
Yes.
thing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am.
Where do you think that came from? Not the sanitizing, but it's when I look at it, like I asked you where you were at in the child side.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 in the family. You're the third one, but you acted as the mother to
Yes.
a lot of them.
Yes.
It made sense to me.
Yes.
Where do you think that again? You have an internal pressure that you put on yourself, not in a bad way.
Yes.
But and when I say pressure, maybe that's not the greatest word. Maybe it's expectation.
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from?
I do. I think that came from sibling order. I really do. I think the first child typically, not always, this doesn't always hold true, but I think many times the oldest child has the responsibility of caring for the younger children. And so I just think that whole thing of, okay, make sure you wash your hands. Make sure, when you take your shoes off, and you dust them off and shake them off. We don't want dirt in the house, or if that drops on the floor, you need to pick that up and put that in the trash, And I think now that I'm a little older, I'm probably a little bit more lenient with certain things because now I'm like, well, you know what? It's not going to hurt you. Especially with my little nephew, it ain't going to hurt him. Ain't going to do nothing but make his immune system stronger. Leave him alone, Don't freak out because he dropped his pacifier. It's okay at this point, depending on where we are now. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to do that at the public mall now. They're not going to go for that.
What do you think you would struggle with? Like, you seem to be a very in tune spiritually. I mean, if God says it, you're doing it. Mm-hmm. What would you struggle with him with, though? Because I've had a conversation with a friend the other day. His name is Kevin, and I'm going to say his name and call him out because he's a great friend of mine.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
But we sat down one time, and I asked him, I said, well, what if it's not God's will that you're rich and famous? And he stopped and looked at me and he was like, I don't want to hear that.
Oh,
What would you wrestle with if God told you this thing had to cease?
I think I would wrestle with if he told me to stop preaching. I would have a problem with that because I feel like that's what I'm born to do. Out of everything God has allowed me to steward, I would say the ministry side of who I am probably is the thing that makes me smile in my sleep. You know, you can touch me in the nighttime.
What
and I'm
what would the
ready to-
conversation be like with God? Would it be like, all right, you got to show me? Because I know you shouldn't do this with God, but I'm like, give me a sign. And then he'll give me a sign and be like, just one more.
See, just please God, huh?
And I'm like, just you know, if this is what you want to do, take one more step. What would that conversation be like if he came to you today, if we got done and he gave you a word and said ministry has to stop?
I probably would have a conversation with
What would
God
it
that
be
would
like?
go like this. I would say, God, now I truly believe that you called me.
Do you talk to him like that?
I do.
Yeah, why? You don't. I mean, do you talk? Because like, would he be like, why are you talking to me like that? Like, you
Well-
don't talk like that. You went into a whole different voice.
I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
but like
you
when
were
I'm
like,
talking,
oh Lord.
because I get reverent. You know, I don't be messing with
You
God any
wouldn't
old kind of
talk
way.
to him just like that?
No,
Why
I'm
not?
not, because I don't want to, you know, I don't
think
want
he
to
would
be
get offended?
disrespectful. I don't want to be disrespectful.
Really? Okay,
I honor
all right.
God to that degree. So I would probably bring myself down. And I'm not saying I don't get emotional. Like, now, God,
No, I'm saying-
why in the world did you let that happen to me?
Well,
But-
the reason why I say it is because I remember one time my dad came out of the garage and he was pissed, and I
Yeah.
said, "What's up, Pop?" And he was like, "I was yelling at God." I was like, "What?" And I stepped away from him because I thought he was going to get struck by lightning.
yeah, no, yeah, see that.
And then what he said to me,
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Son, that's when the relationship becomes real."
Really? But I don't yell at my parents like that. Like, I'm not going to talk to God in a way that I don't even speak to my own parents. I would never yell at my parents ever
I
like
wouldn't yell
that.
at my dad either.
See, there
I've
you
yelled
have
at
it.
God though.
Well, why you
And
how you
but
don't
when
yell
I
at God and not yell at your father?
Well, I mean, because my dad whooped my ass. That's why.
And you
I
don't
mean,
think God-
Well, God will. I mean, He does in so many different ways. But I'm saying, like, it gets real in a way of like, you know, you don't need to come to me with, you know, with a certain vernacular. I just need you to come as you are.
Yeah.
And the reason why I said that is because your voice, I cannot wait for you to watch this back. All of it. I can't wait. And I want you to watch it with your husband too. And I want you guys to watch it because, Nichelle, and when I'm saying this, William, you see his head? Look at his head shaking like that. Nikki's over here. It's good to see you, by the way, Nikki. Nikki is like, it's a shift. It's a change.
Yes.
Okay, but take me back to the conversation. So, oh Lord,
No,
sweet baby
it's-
Jesus
it's-
with
it's
wings.
not
I'm
a-
kidding
no,
with you.
I'm just like,
kidding
I'm
with you.
just like,
So, okay, but I'm saying this is a major thing.
yes.
That
And it's
makes
that
you-
major that I gotta like be like, okay, God.
No, but I'm saying he just drops it on you.
Yeah.
He drops it on you right now, says, Nichelle, is God here?
Mm-hmm.
You can't preach no more.
And I would be like, God, are you certain this is what you want me to do? I believe in your certainty. I know that I truly believe that you have called me by your name. And I truly believe that I am in this earth realm for such a time as this. And God, I'm not trying to banter or negotiate with you. I will always be obedient to your word. But Father, what assurance can you give me in my heart, God, that this is not me hallucinating because I ate chicken last night, God? Please confirm, God, your word. You said that you would confirm your word out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. I would just really just,
Okay, I'm gonna get.
I would have a hard time with that. Like literally, like you got me upset right now.
That's what I'm saying. So
But this is my upset.
no, it's not. No, it's not. I can tell you it's not. Okay.
This is my upset with God. Let me say that
Okay,
differently.
but
Now,
that's
my
not your
upset
upset.
with you. Yeah, no, my
No, hell
upset
no.
with you would be a little bit
No,
different.
I saw
but that's
it.
my
I
upset
saw
with God.
it with a lowercase s on a string. I saw it with a lower. We both saw it. He saw it. He's my witness. Nikki wasn't here. But I'm gonna flip
My
it.
upset said, "Oh, that's a lowercase s." I said it just like that, didn't I?
No, she didn't. She said it with the tone. Like, you better change that graphic.
I didn't even ask him to change it. I
you
was like,
got it.
oh.
So I'm gonna switch it up. Did you see A Time to Kill?
Hey, I have all the time you need
No,
today.
no. Did you see the movie?
Oh, did I see? I thought you asked me, did I still have time to
Girl,
kill?
I want you to
That
be
is
present.
funny.
No, I want you to be present with me. You said you would
I
be
am
present.
here. And no, I don't
Time to Kill.
recall A Time to
Phenomenal
Kill.
movie.
I know, I've heard.
Phenomenal movie.
I don't recall it though.
There was an end that was masterful, and I didn't even see it coming. I read the book. I didn't even see it coming.
What?
Matthew McConaughey. It was Matthew McConaughey was the lawyer, and he did the whole thing, and he talked about the daughter, and he went through the whole thing. It was the closing arguments, and he went through, and I was like, how is he going to do this? He went through and he told the whole story. Boom, boom, boom. It was in the South, and Samuel L. Jackson was the father of the daughter, and he went through and and then he looked at the jury and he said, "Now, imagine that the girl was white." Changed everything. It was an all-white jury.
Oh,
It was a little black girl that got killed,
yeah. I remember that.
and
now.
it shifted everything.
Should I be afraid?
Your husband calls you right after this podcast and says, "You don't need to preach anymore." What's the conversation like?
Oh, no. You don't get to dictate that. I am called by God. That is non-negotiable. I appreciate you, but you knew who I was when you married me. So it's not like I started preaching after I married you. So no, sir, that's non-negotiable. That would be the conversation right there. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
See, I'm saying like,
Look, it was still my same call, though, wasn't it? I think he thinks I'm a...
No, I'm saying it was not the same. That was not the same.
Yeah, because he's not God.
I understand.
I'm talking to God. I'm like, okay, God.
But I'm saying like,
I'm like all contrite and broken before him. I'm
Really?
like, yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Why do you think that is?
No, okay. If it's something like, I can't even think of anything, but maybe if it was a death of someone really close to me, I probably would be like, God, oh my God, why did you have to take them now, Lord? I might have that kind of gravitas to it, but or if I'm really passionate about something, I'm normally in Thanksgiving when I get kind of hyped. I'm like, Lord, I just want to thank you right now for what you have just done, God. I thank you for the amazing doors you've opened for us and how, God, you set before me an open door, God. And, I'm normally hyped in, but if it's something serious that I've heard from him, I'm really going to be contrite in my approach as my father. He's my father.
Yeah.
And I really want to go to him in reverence and in honor to say, God, am I hearing you correctly? And I think me selling myself down, it gives me an opportunity to make sure I'm hearing, and I'm not, shrouded with all of the emotions and all of the, frequencies in the atmosphere that can cause us to really be incited at times. I think sometimes there's a level of calm that we have to approach in order for us to hear accurately and effectively, I think.
When did that start to take place? Because most of the time, let's say like people who are in, a lot of times people who are in ministry, needed ministering.
Yeah.
People who are in therapy generally needed therapy. People who have the tendency to have a propensity towards, drug addiction, have been addicted themselves, and they want to be able to work through that. Is that the case? Is that the case for you?
I can't necessarily pull the thread on that example, but what I would say is if I am going to God asking him for peace, I'm not gonna be like, God, I need your peace right now. No, I'm like, Lord, thank you for peace.
But you've alluded to it a couple of times where it's about the emotion, almost suppressing emotion before you make a decision. Was there times where like that you saw outside of you in an example of like, this person was just acting emotionally and therefore I'm not going to do that part?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I subscribe to suppressing emotion, because I think emotions are very critical in any circumstance when you're making decisions. But what I do subscribe to is governing that emotion. I think that is critical, that I don't allow myself to be incited or excited or pushed into pressure or fear, to the degree that I can't make a decision that would serve myself and the other party well, because I'm a win-win person. It has to be a win for both of us. If I start feeling in any way that I'm not winning and you winning by yourself, you probably can count me out. It's going to come a time where I'm going to have to come back and say, you know what, thank you.
When did
I
you become that
appreciate you.
self-aware? This is
By
it's
getting burnt so many times.
really,
Yeah.
tell me the first time you got burnt.
Oh my gosh, I don't even recall the first time. I've been burnt so many times. I can't recall the first time. But people take advantage of you. And I think my natural personality, again, I am very soft spoken,
So because of that soft-spoken part
and
early on,
there's
did
a
you
level
find that
of,
people
of
were?
timidity that I think my natural personality is seated in. What I would
Do you
say,
think it's natural to be timid, or do you think that it's things that happen to you that sometimes cause you to be timid?
I think you can have a combination of the both.
Do you think it's born in though?
I think certain personality types are just not boisterous personality types. They're not. I got two sisters. Well, maybe yeah.
But
My
let me,
sisters are wide open, and I am probably the still water in between all of them.
well, let's go to. I mean, I even go to a cellular part. I'm just super curious about this stuff. Do you think that there's ever a baby that is born that it comes out and the doctor says we got a shy one here?
No, I think our personalities are informed by our environment.
Okay,
And
so
I
based
think
off of that,
if that baby is born in a family where they have a hard time getting a word in edgewise, I think over time their personality may constrict. It's very plausible that could happen,
Okay.
especially if you're in a family where, you're raised with the children should be seen and not heard, and you get to the point where you don't get to say and express yourself. Then as you continue to develop, you may have challenges expressing yourself. Hence, therefore, your confidence begins to erode and then you become shy. I do think that is a possibility. Now, I don't know the psychology
I don't
behind
know.
it, but I would assume that that would be a fair assessment of how that could happen.
I like that neither of us have Google right now
Yes,
on us because we can actually have a
yeah.
discussion that
Yeah,
way,
we could
which
definitely do
I
that,
think is
which
good.
I love that kind of
When
stuff.
did you start to feel freedom? Was it when the businesses started, when you got into business? Like, the reason why I'm asking is because growing up, my brothers were really good. My one brother was really good at sports. My other brother was he was always the man.
Mhm.
And I didn't find my thing until I got into an industry. And then it was almost like I felt freedom in that. It was my thing. And then I went. Did you have that? Because when you have or three siblings, you're in the middle, they're loud and boisterous and, you were talking about the comedy side and all that
Mhm.
stuff. When did you start to feel free in doing what you were doing? Was it the ministry side? Was it when you did your sermon at 11?
I think for me, no, I didn't feel free then. I felt that it was a happy place for me. But in terms of freedom, I think my confidence grew over time. I think my confidence grew through different life experiences. I think my confidence grew through being put in certain environments where I had the opportunity to speak or where I had the opportunity to exercise any gifts and talents that I had. I mean, I'm a musician as well, And so and then all of my life, when I look back on it, because now I can thread the needle on it, I've always been in leadership positions. I mean, in the 7th grade, I became the drum major of the band.
Yeah.
8th grade, I was the drum major, the senior drum major. When I got in high school, I was on the flag corps and I became the captain of the flag corps. And then I was on student council. It was just all of the things, president of the Latin club, and it just continues to. I've always been in a context that allowed me to demonstrate leadership. And so that's how I learned the discipline of being a leader and knowing that, leadership, really is the discipline of being able to pre-decide. In other words, as you're leading people, you have to decide what the standard is, what the direction is, what the vision is, what the mission is. It's you as the leader that decides those things. And then you have to decide how you work with people to get them to do that. And for me, remember, the church, you're basically working with a volunteer workforce in the church. So you have to also have an inspirational side to be able to articulate what this vision is, what the impact is, and what you're going to get out of this if you do this. Otherwise, people don't want to do things for free these days.
When did the puzzle pieces start to come together? Because getting to experience it, sitting here experiencing it, I see all the pieces coming together.
Mhm.
I see the 7-year-old that gives her heart to the Lord. I see the 11-year-old that does the sermon for the first time. The 17-year-old that doesn't get ordained but gets licensed.
I love it.
Then we go into, obviously you go into college and you do the PR
Yeah.
side and the
Yeah.
marketing side, and then
Yeah.
start doing a little bit of that. You start working in a different realm as far as the IT, and then the opportunity comes where you get a chance to be able to consult, and then the consulting leads to a business.
Yeah.
But all of them are rooted and grounded in that decision that you make at 7 years old. When did you start to realize, oh, wow, there's pieces to a puzzle, and what pieces do you see forming right now that haven't yet formed that are going to make the bigger picture?
You know what? That is a great question. And I
I've got
think
great questions.
you do, and I appreciate them. I would say that I'm just now seeing it now, Kelly, to be honest with
Really?
you. I think I'm finally seeing that, for me, sometimes you work, and you keep your head down so long that you don't take the time to look up to see what are the accomplishments, what have you achieved, but more so, how have they served others?
Wow.
What imprint have they left on people? What legacy have you established? And I think it's just now in my life where I am coming to that place where I'm like, you know what? This is more and beyond me. This is about legacy. This is about kingdom work, on, not only on the ministry side, but even the business side, everything I do. I think about the parable of the talents, where one, put their talent in the ground. The other one, the other one hid, and then the other one, gave his. And I know I just messed that up because I'm thinking really fast. But I think about the fact that I can't afford to bury my talent in the ground. I got to make sure that I invest it so that the master says that it's well done. And so I think right now I'm coming to a place where I feel like there's now something that I can share with the world where it will leave an indelible imprint and impact, and that it's useful. It's one thing to just tell somebody a story, but it's another thing when you can tell them a story that is useful.
What's the difference between the two?
I think the difference between the two is just one of them is just, okay, here's the facts, here's the color, and you might add something to it that may make it untrue. But then I think there's the time where you have the facts, you have the proof points, you have the experience, and oftentimes there's a principle that goes along with it that can serve someone well.
Let's go to the BreakForth Ministries part of it.
Yeah.
Because, again, I keep going back to it, but most people choose one or the other. You've aligned them, and
Yes.
you almost can't separate them.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you have I'm trying to think, say when you mix something up, you mix up the ingredients for cookies.
Yes.
You can't just take the sugar out.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could
exactly.
just reach in and take the sugar out. I would like to take
I
all the
love
chocolate
that.
out of the chocolate chips so I could just eat them.
Yes.
But I will eat the cookie dough. You eat cookie dough?
No, I'm not a fan.
No? And the raw cookie dough you ain't getting after it?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Pizza. I'm
Pizza?
a food person.
Really? Are
I'm
you a
a-
sweets person too?
Not necessarily, yeah.
That's smart.
I can take or leave sweets, but food I'm here for all day long.
Chicago pizza, New York pizza.
New York pizza. I lived in New York, remember?
Mm.
I actually
you
lived in
fold it?
Chicago too.
Do you fold it?
If it's a New York slice, absolutely.
Yes.
That's the only way to
Well,
eat
you
it.
can't fold Chicago.
Oh no.
You ain't folding
It's
that.
too
That's like
thick.
17
that's-
pounds of
Yeah,
goodness.
exactly. Yeah, no.
It's like a casserole.
Exactly. It's casserole on some dough, yeah.
So you can't separate ingredients once you mixed them. And with you, these things are so ingrained and so mixed. But yours started at, inception. By 7, you made that decision. When you're working in the ministry side and we're working with that, generally you're not working with 7-year-olds.
Correct.
So how do we take these principles and start to infuse them? I'm 35 years old. Well, hell, I got 35 years
Yeah.
of scar tissue of all those things. And here comes Nichelle that, outside of maybe you saying that, you weren't resting exactly perfect. That was the only thing outside of there. You said that if God told you that he was going to take away the number one thing, that you would say, well, God, let me think about that. And I would like to reverence you and say the Lord's Prayer. I would be mad.
Yes, the angels are fluttering
Yes,
right now.
yes, they are. The angels are fluttering right now.
Cherubims are singing. Mhm.
But what would you say to that 35-year-old that is saying like, sounds great.
Mhm.
You started when you were 7. I'm 35. I think it's all done for me.
Oh no, I would say to that 35-year-old, it is never too late. And I think your purpose unfolds in the earth at the perfect time that God has already had. There is a opportunity for what I call chronologically. I think sometimes we focus so much on that we forget that there's Kairos time and even Pleiruo time. And Kairos time is when that opportunity aligns with, I believe, God's word and his purpose and his plan for you. Pleiruo time is when all of it comes together, and we call that the fullness of time, where now we get to experience the total, fulfillment of what God put you here to do. So whether you're 35, whether you're 65, whether you're 85 or 95, if that fullness of time comes at that time, then you're unstoppable because you have everything. You already have wired in your DNA everything to accomplish what God has called you to accomplish. The only thing sometimes that causes delay is that we're not listening, or we're not sensitive to the promptings, or we may not be obedient. How many times have we heard and we know in our heart that we need to do something, but we decide we're not because we categorize something as being more immediate. Or we categorize something as saying, well, right now I got to raise my family right now, so I can't do that, because we may not trust God that for every vision he's going to give provision. And so, and sometimes it may be fear. Sometimes it may be looking externally at, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, but the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, the world's, and they who dwell therein. And there has to be a centering of faith that says, you know what, I'm going to trust God that if he told me to do this, he's going to send the right people. He's going to send the money. He's going to let the person that's supposed to say yes, he'll trouble them in their sleep until they do. And so it's just at a point, if you're 35, it's being open to that. And there's no systematic, there is no, right, wrong, rulesy way to do that. I just say be open. Just be open and never, ever, ever resign yourself to believing that it's not enough time or it's too late, because it is never too late.
When did that type of mentality really take forth, and where you started to believe in it? Because most of the time people are looking at their resources as opposed to their resourcefulness.
When I was young, around 7-ish or 8-ish, when my dad would come home from his shift, he may be sleeping, and he would wake up and he'd say, somebody tell Nichelle to come here. And I'd be like, oh God, what does he want now? Because it's like, what is he going to say? Oh, you didn't make up the bed. Oh, but then I would come in there, he would be laying in the bed with his hands on his chest like this. And he would say, I want you to always remember, you got to walk tall, you got to talk tall, and you got to think tall. My sisters tease me about that to this day. He had a different saying for all of them, but I don't remember theirs. But mine was, you got to walk tall, you got to think tall, and you got to talk tall. And so anytime I do something, my baby sister teases me. She said, there she go, walking tall over there. And I think just having someone in my life to infuse my spirit at such a young age with that type of encouragement really informed, even beyond my natural personality propensities, because my natural personality says, girl, run, don't do that. But that courage that has been infused in me said, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So just go and do it. What's the worst that can happen? And so I typically operate from, well, what's the worst that can happen? And then sometimes the worst has happened. I'm like, oh yeah, that was bad. So don't do that no more.
if we took it back, BreakForth Solutions, 2012. So we're coming up on 14 years.
Yes.
14 years.
Mm-hmm.
14 years ago, if I would have told you you're sitting in this place right now, your business is doing what it's doing, and your challenges are what they are now, you would be like, that's not a challenge. That's a dream.
Oh,
right?
No,
14
years. No, I had to grow into this place. So
no, I'm saying 14 years ago, if I would have said your business is going to be having the type of contracts that you're doing, you're going to have the type of success 14, 15 years ago, that would have scared you. Would it have shocked you a little bit?
Yes.
Yes.
It would have.
That being said, what is shocking you now or scaring you now as you look forward? Because you're a person of constant evolution and constant growth. At that time, again, if I would have said, you're going to be sitting in this place, you would have been like, man, that'd be amazing. As we look forward, what is that?
I think being in government contracting as a business is a very rigorous business. And just the method of acquisition alone, we talked about it, the proposals and how you do business with the government. And especially now in this environment where they are now constricting sole source contract opportunities, I think the thing that would make me say, okay, can I really do this, is there is a certain level of throttle that you have to keep doing this long term, or it will burn you out. And so for me, it's governing and making sure that I stay regulated on the inside so that, as we've talked about plenty through this time that we're sharing, is the pressure does not take me out the game, you know? And so what I've had to do is just be very intentional to say, I'm not going to sit up and say, oh, we're going to be $100 million company tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set realistic goals, realistic expectations. And when those things need to be adjusted, don't be afraid to make the adjustments. You know, visions, goals, objectives, they can be adjusted. You know, some people get to a point where they say, well, we wrote this down and this is what we got to run to. And we're going to run. And you burn everybody else around you because what happened is the environment has changed and it may not be conducive to achieve that now. It may take you an additional year to achieve that. And you got to be okay with the adjustment because otherwise you're going to burn out yourself and you're going to burn out your resources.
With BreakForth Ministries, is it looking to build other people that will go out and speak the BreakForth language to leaders, or is this to be able to build the platform for Nichelle to do that? What does that look like?
You know what? That's a good thought. I've never seen it as a platform for other speakers, but I'm open to that. Right now, it's really being built to just do training and development in many different regards. And
do you want to do that in this? I could use the secular when we're talking about church. I use secular when we were talking about government, but it was what was the word?
Commercial.
Government and commercial, and then we've got ministry and secular.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So is the BreakForth Ministries going to go into the secular businesses and help them to understand these principles?
Absolutely.
And if so, how do you? And I almost feel like I'm going to know similar to what you're going to say because, or when I say this, I don't know the exact answer, but when you're going into a secular place, the vernacular has to be different.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things that are triggers, and you're masterful at it.
Thank you.
Like I've honestly, God, like it's wild to watch in these last couple hours. It really is, because you move inside and outside, and I've done it on purpose, switching from ministry to back to business, because I want you to go back and I'll clip it for you. Like the way that you sit changes, your shoulders change, your tone changes, your inflection changes. You go to these places. When you're doing the BreakForth Ministries and you're going into the secular side, how are you going to be able to cross those? Or is that something that you even want to do? Or is the ministries going to stick in the ministry and then the BreakForth Solutions going to stick in that point? Or are you going to merge it?
I believe that I am called to stand in both ministry and marketplace. And I think that God has equipped me to communicate in an effective way in both. And so because of that, I think that it is incumbent upon me to understand the rooms and the environments that I step into, but also understand that I'm carrying something that the room has to adjust to me, you know? And so as long as I know that when I step into a room, that room will begin to adjust and conspire to receive what I am there to provide. And I will also adjust to understand what is in that room that I can release that would be, you know, incubated in that environment and that will turn into a seed that'll grow for somebody. And so it's just a matter of understanding what you're carrying and why you're there. And I think on the commercial side, as well as the secular side, as well as the ministry side, as well as the federal government side, God has just given me opportunities to stand in all of those domains and to understand those environments so that I know how to comport myself to the degree that I can actually bring him glory.
We're going to go through 3 segments here. I've never done this on the podcast ever.
Happy to be
we're going to go through 3 segments. We're going to go through the church side or the ministry side. We'll go into the business, and then we'll go into the government. Yeah. And I'm going to turn yours back on you because I loved what you did with that minister when he said that women should not be in ministry, and you said, "Well, what if I was the last person? What would you do?" And he argued with you. So I hope you don't argue with me on this one. But I'm going to give you 45 seconds, and it's almost like you're walking through the room, and you have the world that needs the message and ministry. And then 45 seconds later, you walk through the next room and you got the business that needs to hear what the business needs to hear. And then you got the government contracting side that needs to hear that. But you got 45 seconds to walk through that door. And once you're done, your mission was to make sure that all the things and the talents that you were given were stewarded well in that 45 seconds. Let's start with ministry. What would you say?
If I were walking through a room in ministry, I would say, you are here for a reason. God has called you. He knew you. He formed you even before you were in your mother's womb. And the heavens are now declaring God's purpose to be excavated out of your spirit for such a time as this. And every talent, every dream, every vision, God needs you to release that in the earth right now, because if you do not release it, it puts the world at a deficit. The world is better when you release what God gives to you. But when you do not release it, you play a part in the world not becoming a better place. And so I implore you, by the mercies of God, to release that what God has placed in your spirit, because you have value and you are important to the kingdom for such a time as this.
And now I grab Nichelle's hand and I take her into the next room and we walk into all business owners. Go.
Right now, you have an opportunity to steward a business that is so necessary. When you are assured of your mission and your vision and what your business stands for, it is important that you make sure that the consumer is very fully aware of the value that it brings. When you exchange value, what will happen is value will then translate back to revenue. But you have to make sure that you steward your profit and loss statements very well. You have to make sure that your marketing is in place. You have to make sure that all of your systems and the frameworks and the technologies you use are really pulled together in such a way that will cause efficiency so that you can continue to grow. What good is a business if it does not grow? Businesses that don't grow eventually die because they are a living organism. Companies work with companies, but companies are made up of people. And so your best resource in this season is your people. Invest in your people. And when you invest in your people, they will invest in the business. And therefore, the business will continue to grow. And the consumer will know you as a business that they know, like, and trust.
And I'm going to grab Nichelle's arm and say to her, just whisper in her ear, you were 5 seconds over, but we're walking into the government side. Go.
We are at a time where we have an administration that has put critical mission objectives in front of all of us. Some you may agree with, some you may not. But the important thing is to know that we're all here to ensure national security for the citizens of this great country that we all know and love. And therefore, I ask you to look, government, at what resources that you need from us as contractors. Make sure that you are very clear on what we can do to help you continue to keep us all safe. We want to make sure that every mission that we stand in support, we want to make sure that we provide you with the tools and the technologies necessary for you to see any adversary that would try to come and attack this country. We want to be ahead of them, whether they are attacking this country through our data center infrastructures, our electrical grids, or whether it is through a systematic misuse or non-governance of AI tools. We want to make sure that we stand at the forefront to support you in what you have to do in order to keep this country safe.
Nichelle, as I walk up to her, I'm going to grab her arm and I'm just going to whisper into her ear, I got one last room. And in the room is all your nieces and nephews that are saying, Auntie Nichelle could take care of everything because she's successful in business. So I'm just going to ask her for every single thing and she should buy me everything because I just see the way that her life is going and she should just break me off for every single thing that I want. And we walk into there. What are you saying to nieces and nephews?
I love y'all so very much. And yes, I'm going to give you everything you want. And then you can go back home to your parents and they can just be mad because you've gotten everything you want from your auntie, because I'm the best auntie in the whole wide world.
You talked about impact, right? And so what impact do you want BreakForth Ministries to be able to have? Like when it's all said and done and someone says, you're gone, you're hanging out with sweet baby Jesus, walking on streets of gold. You're going to be talking to him regular. I'm going to be yelling at him. Where you're going to be like but I'll probably have a smaller house than you will in heaven. So I'll probably be throwing
put my mansion next to Kelly's. Put mine next to Kelly's.
But when that's all said and done, what do you want? What do you want the person on the street walking by when they hear BreakForth Solutions? Like just the same way that when you hear Ritz-Carlton, it's ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. BreakForth Solutions or BreakForth Ministries.
What I want them to know is that we played a critical part in them being the best person that they could be for God's glory. And so if they don't remember anything, I want them to be able to say, when I encountered that ministry, it provoked me to break forth because I knew on the inside it was time for the world to know me.
What would you want the government to say about BreakForth Solutions?
I would want the government to say that BreakForth Solutions provides us with maximum and optimum solutions that has allowed us to successfully meet as well advance our most mission critical objectives. And as a result of those solutions, we were able to keep this great nation safe.
The only point of contention, I mean, in hearing you, experiencing you, it's unbelievable. Like, even with the line of questionings that I have, and I didn't give you any questions.
Right, you didn't.
I didn't allow you to prepare for them. And I do that because I want to know what you actually believe.
Yes.
And it's been amazing. There is one point of contention.
Yes.
And it's the Steelers.
Holy smokes.
So, but I will give you credit because there's only been 3 coaches in my lifetime. There was Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin.
Yes.
Now there's going to be a 4th, which I think they should have kept him, or he should have stayed. I'm hoping he goes to the Titans. He doesn't hope he goes to the Titans, but I'm hoping he does. How important is tenure when you're talking about in your company? Let's do the company first, and then let's do ministry next, because you exemplify both of them, because your tenure is unbelievable.
Yes. Thank you.
How important is that for the people that you work with to have that?
I'm not so sold on tenure as much as I am sold on their overall industry experience that they can bring to BreakForth to help us advance our mission. And so if they've had, 2 years at this company or 4 years at the other, but they have a significant niche capability that can help us advance what we are doing for the government, then I'd certainly want to talk to them. What I would say is once they get in BreakForth, I tell my team this all the time. I say, I'm not crazy enough to believe you all are going to stay here with me forever. So what I will do is do everything in my power to develop you to the degree that when you go to another company, they're going to always want my people because they know what I've invested in you.
What about when it comes to ministry? Well, I want to stay on that one just for a second in the business side of it, because I had a guy, he was an incredible human being, very, very successful businessman. And he came to me and he showed me a couple numbers, and which I was unimpressed by.
Okay.
Like, I saw the numbers and I was like, why would you even show me those? Because they were like 25, 17, 32. I mean,
in terms of tenure?
No. I mean, he just showed me these numbers, and
what were
I was
the
like,
numbers for?
I didn't know, but and so and he's such a savvy businessman, and he's like, I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah.
That I was like, why are you showing me such? I mean, you showed me 2-digit numbers, but he said that's the amount of years that the people have been with my company. And when he said that, he told me, he dropped it on me. His name is John McCormick, and he said, until you get to 20, you haven't done anything. And I was like, what? Like, it hit me. There's some places where I believe that. What's your thoughts on that?
I respect his framework. If that's how he has built the culture of his company and that's what he would choose to tell his employees, I respect that. As it relates to BreakForth Solutions, if you come in this environment and you hadn't done anything in 90 days, we have some conversations to have because I hired you because I believed you had the requisite experience to help us move to the different, a different level than where we are.
Yeah.
And so my expectation is that you are equipped, you are efficient, you are ready to go, you have experience. I'm investing in experience as well. I'm investing in you to help you become a well-rounded leader. But my primary investment is in what you've experienced and your education, what you've accomplished over the years that can help me with whatever capability, with whatever competency we're trying to expand. That's what I'm buying when I hire you.
Wow.
And if I'm not, I know in 90, matter of fact, I honestly know it in like 20 days, but I try to be a little tempered. In your first 20 to 30 days, I know whether you are going to be here or whether you have to go. And so we hire very slowly. We're very methodical. We're very systematic in how we hire. But if we know you, we got to let you go. We're going to move quickly on that. You don't get to stay 4 years and do nothing. I've done that before, and it did not serve us well.
Wow.
It was very impactful to the organization. I let a particular position stay in place way too long, and that position was really responsible for helping us build a pipeline of business. And you spend 3 years not building a pipeline and not having credible opportunities in that pipeline. 3 years later, I don't have anything. So if I would have cut at year one instead of letting it last 3 years, I would have been only at a 1 year deficit than a 3 year deficit. And those are the things you have to think about as a leader. So that taught me early on, because that happened early on in the business.
Yeah.
Around year 6, I knew better, and I didn't make that decision, that mistake again.
How much did that cost you?
Millions.
How many millions?
I can't necessarily say, because
Like,
again,
was it in the 5 million, 3 million?
it could have been, it could have been 5 million, it could have been 100 million. It would
Wow.
have really been dependent upon the contracts that should have been in the pipeline at the time. And so we go after multi-million-dollar contracts. I mean, it's very, I mean, look, again, if there's a $20,000 contract that will get my foot in the door at the agency that we're not at, then yes, I likely will look at it. Let me, likely, but
you ain't. You ain't.
Yeah.
You're really nice right now. One of my friends was talking. She's going to be mad at me. I won't use the exact names, but actually, her name is Akila. And she
I'm sorry, Akila.
Yeah, exactly. And Akila, I love you so much. She has a friend named Maria, and Maria is that friend that we all have that's like keeps doing silly stuff, and then we're like, you know what? This one thing that I'm gonna do is going to help her get over the hump.
Oh my God.
But everybody else is like, Maria ain't doing nothing good ever. She's just going to continue on. When you're in ministry, you probably see a lot of things like that. You can't have the 20-day with the 70-day buffer and you're out the kingdom.
Exactly.
How do you deal when it comes to ministry when we're talking tenure? Do you have to, I mean, because we talk about grace, but in business, if you have unlimited grace with people, you could end up with a situation that you had before.
Yeah, it's very expensive. In the kingdom, I think my approach is a little different. That's what I would say.
Okay.
My approach in the kingdom really is to understand the what behind the why. You know, Maria, I'm not going to use your example, but I'll just say, hey, Maria, we love you, Maria. I'm sorry, Maria, that you ended up in this podcast with Kelly and I. In the kingdom, however, if I was speaking to someone at church, Sister Cantaloupe, for instance, I would really spend some time trying to understand what is the what behind the why. You know, what is within you that is not healed, that is keeping you in a place of progression. You know, oftentimes people are not being mean or mean spirit because they're not, you know, meeting the mark or doing the things. Sometimes it's a place of healing or a scar that has, you know, introduced some trepidation in their spirit where they may not have the confidence. They may not have the assurance. They may not have been afforded the opportunity. They may feel that they have not been heard. And I think you have to spend some time exploring those things, because the ultimate goal is to develop disciples so that we can all go out and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ to win other souls to Christ Jesus. And so we want to keep people in the kingdom. And so we do that by making sure that they are healthy, healed, and whole, to the degree first that they can be a blessing to their own house and their own life, so that, because when they're a blessing, they can be a blessing. Kelly.
No, it's incredible. And I keep telling you, the example of it is so great. And to be able to see it's making more and more sense, because the secular side, your success in the secular side, when I say the secular side in your business, that success is an example of principles applied.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that you have to use the exact same methods that you do in church as you did in business, because in the event that you did, your business would falter.
Yes.
And if you use the same techniques in your business as you did in the ministry, your ministry would be non-existent.
Or not as effective.
Yes.
Because there are some principles that I do think translate very well over into ministry. Yeah. But how you apply them and the pressure in which you apply them is a little bit different.
It's incredible how you're able to shift gears and work those things and work in line. I mean, it's the alignment part of it for me is, again, the word that it keeps coming is masterful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It again is seeded from my internal convictions,
Which one has to come first?
In terms of what?
When we're talking about the ministry side and then the business side, can a person learn these principles in business and then it help their faith? Or do they have to start with faith first and go to business?
I don't think there is a right or wrong to that. I think you learn however God affords opportunities for you to get your lessons. And, some people learn their lessons first in business and then they come to the church. Some people grow up in the church and then they are able to go to business. So I just think that as long as we just remain open, even in our human capacity to do so, I think life really is a great catalyst of allowing us to be exposed to experiences that really allow us to learn lessons that can translate in both worlds. That's what happened to me, actually.
Are there any things that don't translate? So I'm thinking of one, and you probably were able to make a correlation, but when we were talking earlier, you're in church, you guys have say a system, right?
Yes.
So you have a system, you have a series that's going, and then you had said that your senior pastor sometimes will have a feeling from the Holy Spirit, and then he'll preach on that in between the system.
Yes.
Does that apply to business?
I think it does in certain cases. For instance, you in business, again, we are a government contractor and we serve national law enforcement agencies. So, for instance, Department of Justice is one of our biggest clients. Oftentimes, if their mission shift or something big happens, it may cause our requirements to have to adjust to accommodate what they're trying to accomplish. And so once that has been accomplished, then we go back to business as normal. But we leave ourselves open to make accommodation for any modifications to the contract that may be necessary for us to meet another component of the mission that may not have been there when we first started the contract.
You talked a little bit about your pops and the sayings that he had, and which I love that because I have a great relationship with my pops, and he had sayings. One of them this morning, it was really impressed on me when I went to the beach, and it was just he said that he would always say, "Boy," he said, "Boy." Success is nothing more than preparation and opportunity meeting, and it was incredible because God knew that this conversation was going to happen and how it was going to go before it actually happened. But I was sitting and I hear that. What are some of the top greatest hits sayings that your pops would say?
I think his top greatest hit would be when he would say, Nichelle, you make sure you operate in integrity because there are so many people that rather climb a tree and tell a lie than to stand on the ground and tell the truth.
Hold on. Break that, because sometimes Pops' stuff, you have to sit in it for a second.
Yeah, sit in
break
that
it
for a
down. Break it
second.
down. Stand. Go.
You gotta operate integrity
Integrity,
because
got
there
it.
are so many people, they would rather climb a tree and tell a lie than stand on the ground and tell the truth.
What did you take from that?
What I took from that is,
Like as a kid, when you hear it the first couple of times, you're like, wow, this is a
he
life
said it
lesson.
so much until we finally got it. It was like, you'd rather go out of your way to tell a lie
Boom.
rather than just tell the truth the first time in a
Yes.
stable place where we
Yes.
can deal with it. So,
Yes.
in other words, don't go through all the effort to climb the tree and try to get up high and figure out how you gonna get down, because you rather tell a lie. Just stand on the ground and tell the truth. Stand flat-footed and tell the truth at all times.
What's a saying that is developing that you have?
A saying that is
That
developing.
your nephews and nieces hear and they're like, there goes Auntie again.
Oh, it's just one phrase, follow through. I don't care what they're doing. I say, okay, Trey, baby, you need to follow through. If you started that, finish it. I am big on that. I say that to everybody in my family knows she like, Nichelle gonna come in, she gonna tell us to follow through. So we better have this done by the time she come back. Follow through. Let's get it done. That's me. Follow through. You said you were gonna do it. Let's get it done.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's incredible I can't wait for you to go back and listen to, I've told people this before, but you're fielding questions, so you're not experiencing it.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing it.
Wow.
I get a chance to be able to sit here and also to be able to connect the dots, to be able to see from a 7-year-old girl who makes a decision
Yeah.
to a 21-year-old woman who sits in front of me today.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You're so kind and gracious. I miss her.
Yeah, but as a woman sitting in front of me today that has accomplished, like I've told you, more in 5 years than most people have in 5 lifetimes.
Wow.
But did it in an integrity based way, did it in a way, and when you summed it up and said follow through, that's what you talked about the whole entire time,
Yeah.
and you literally summed it up in 2 words.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That is a part of the DNA of my identity.
Mm.
We talked earlier where I shared with you that identity is absolutely different from image. And my identity and who I am on the inside of me means more to me than I want it to mean to anybody else. And so I use that as my springboard to always assess and evaluate who I am in Christ, who I am in business, who I am as a family member. And that's how I try to really just make sure that I am the leader that I really want to train other people to be.
With all the success that you have, and success is, what would we say? It's all relative, right?
Yeah.
So it's all how you define it. I had
Yes.
one woman, I said, she said, I want to be successful. I said, what is success to you? She said, working 7 days a week. And I was like, I don't want to be
Oh.
successful in your book at all. But
Yeah.
it's always a relative term. And my brother always stops me with it. And he's like, wait a second, what do you mean by success? I'm not talking about the financial part.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about the business part. I'm talking about the fact that what you're talking about, you're actually living.
Yes.
But let's go to the worldly side.
Yeah.
With all of this stuff that, let's call it the financial success or the
Yes.
business success and all that stuff, what is the one silly thing that means nothing, that doesn't change the world, doesn't impact anything, that Nichelle wants, and that it wouldn't mean anything to anybody else? And when I say this, I'm going to tell you why, is for me, when I first started off, the only reason why I wanted to have any success in business is so I could go to the carnival and play until I won.
I love it.
Because it always costs a lot. Now that shifted a little bit. And for me, I have my eye. I know exactly the one that I want.
Mhm.
I want to own a bowling alley. And
Oh,
people
I
were
love
like,
it.
is it because it's going to be profitable? No, I don't care if it's profitable. I don't care that part.
Yeah.
I want to own the bowling alley. And I already know the one, and
Mhm.
it is awesome.
Hey, we agree now that you're owning that bowling alley.
Yes.
I set myself in agreement with
What's
you.
the thing just for Nichelle
You know what?
that has no purpose? I don't want any
Yeah,
purpose. I don't
yeah.
want the Gandhi answer. I don't want Mother Teresa. I don't want that you're going to solve world hunger. You're going to help leaders. You're going to, you're going to help in ministry. You're going to help people to understand, government contracts, that you're going to be efficient. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying Nichelle, belly laughing, saying, I got that thing, bang, bang. And it means nothing to any of you except me.
I don't know, Kelly. I'm being very honest with you. And the funny thing is, you asked me this question, and I literally asked myself that the other day. I was like, Nichelle, what do you want? I do so much for people. I'm so exposed to, I'm constantly on, if you will, public wise and ministry wise and business wise. And, and the schedule is sometimes crazy. And I'm trying to get more than 4 hours of sleep. One day I'm gonna get up to 8 hours of sleep. And one day I said, Nichelle, what does this all matter if you don't know what you want? What is the one thing that you want? And so I've been giving some thought to that. I would say overall, the one thing that I do want when I come home is I just like to have a variety of drinks in my refrigerator.
Like what kind of drinks?
I will have lemonade. I will have sparkling waters. I will have teas. I probably have like 12 different. I have a garage, a refrigerator in the garage where I set it up like a vending machine so that when I come, I can just pick. It could be a juice. It could be an apple juice. It could be a lemonade. It could be, Coke Zero. It could be a Sprite one day. It could be cranberry juice. I just have, at least at all times, there's going to be a variety of a minimum of maybe 10 to 12 that I get to pick. And that makes me happy.
What concert would turn you into 7-year-old Nichelle? jumping up and down, out of control, can't believe I'm here.
I've never been to a concert before in my life, so that's a problem. But
Let's have a moment of silence for the good Lord with sweet baby Jesus with wings. No concert ever.
I have never been to a concert. But
What would be the first one? Like who? Who is it?
if I were to go to a
Say
concert,
ultimate. You can have anyone.
the ultimate concert that I would have wanted to go to was the concert that Michael Jackson was trying to finish before he died. I had every intention of going to that because I wanted to go, not necessarily, I'm a musician, so I love music, but I really wanted to go just to experience his genius. The man was a genius. And I just love sitting in the room with people who have a genius. Like, you have an innate genius to really have these conversations. You have taken me through my whole life, and you have no idea the impact that this has made on me and the insightful things that I am now thinking about as a result of my conversation with you. So your gifting has certainly done its job, and it has been executed well.
Thank you.
And so I appreciate sitting in front of people who has a demonstrated genius. You know, that dude that we both know, that Dr. James Dixon, that dude has a genius with words that is infectious, and it is just off the top of the dome. It is not a manufactured or artificial thing. It is an ability, and it's uncanny, and it's innate in a way that it can actually change the trajectory of somebody's future if they listen to the words coming out of his mouth. That's the type of presence that I enjoy being in, because it gives me an opportunity to partake of a different essence of genius that I may not necessarily flow in myself.
Who do you see as a musician right now that that has that? Because I'm a Michael fan. I don't know if you saw on the shelf. Did you see on the shelf?
No,
I've
I
got
did
the
not see
original Michael Jackson. Don't pick it up. I'll take her over there. I got the original Michael Jackson doll from 1984. It's there.
What you say now? I gotta see that.
It's
I'm
sitting in
looking
front of
forward to
his
seeing
Thriller
that.
album
Yeah.
on my shelf
Yeah.
in the podcast
Yeah.
in the podcast room.
Yeah.
Who do you see now? I'm gonna say a name, and you're gonna like this is almost gonna be blasphemy
Oh,
because I'm gonna
God.
say it, and I'm not comparing him to Michael Jackson.
Yes, please don't, because there's no.
No,
comparison.
there's none. But I'm saying true genius in
Yes.
today's world that is, I think, underappreciated. Ed Sheeran.
Yes, I agree.
To see him live, I would ask if you've seen him live, but you've never been to a concert
No, I've
before.
never been to a concert.
He produces the whole entire show by himself. I went to a show of 70,000 people. He's got 4 loops on the stage. The stage is rotating. He's making every sound,
Wow.
whether it be the drums, the keyboard, anything like that. He plays it, loops it, runs to the next one, loops it, and then starts the song in, runs around the stage while it's circulating, plays the guitar, singing and rapping, hitting each one of the loops to be able to make sure that it hits, and
Wow.
flawless.
Excellent.
It's unbelievable. My brother, when I say Ed Sheeran, he's like, "Come on, man,
Yeah.
come on."
Yeah.
But
I
to
can
see
see
him,
that. Yes.
Is there any musician for you right now that's like piquing your interest?
Oh my gosh, there are so many musicians out there across so many different genres that I just absolutely love. I mean, we talked about Maverick City earlier. I think there are so many. The Clark sisters in the gospel realm are legendary. When you go over to R&B, I think what Boys to Men and New Edition, and even the girl group there. Oh God, Escape. You know, when I think about all those groups from back in the day, you know, when you think about people like Patti LaBelle that's still performing today, I mean, when you think about people that I absolutely love, like Garth Brooks, that, you know, really has country on lock, him and Blake Shelton, you know, as well as Carrie Underwood, you know, all of them have a special genius that I absolutely appreciate, you know. So, you know, you go back, you look at Bing Crosby, you go back to the jazz era, you look at Lena Horne. I mean, you look at Aretha Franklin, who has passed away. There are so many touch points that have informed musical history that I appreciate. So I just think if we actually took the time, even Bruno Mars, by the way, my dog is named after him. So love Bruno Mars. Shout out to Bruno Mars, you know.
That's a concert you need to go and see.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. What he did at the Super Bowl years ago was just masterful beyond
But it doesn't
measure.
even scratch the surface when you see him live.
Live in Vegas. Oh,
It's like him and his buddies, because him and his buddies, like, if they're not lifelong friends.
Yeah.
They're faking it really
Yes,
well.
goodness.
But it's almost like they're in their garage. They
Yeah,
invited you into their
yeah.
garage and they're just having a great time. It
Yes.
is. My wife is such a fan.
See, that's what I love.
Like,
Not
she's
performance.
too big of a fan, though.
Not
You know what I
performance.
mean? I
But
see the way that she
yeah,
looks at him. I don't like it.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like it. He little too.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
He's little.
Yeah,
I'll put him
bless
in my
his
pocket.
heart. Oh my
Yeah, bless his heart.
gosh. Sorry,
No,
Bruno. We're
No,
sorry.
he's no joke. I love him. I think he's amazing. He's
Yes.
coming. We're going to see Ed Sheeran at SoFi coming soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. So it's just so many great musicians out there that have really, again, made the world a better place by sharing their genius with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about in other realms as far as genius for you?
I would say in other realms, oh my gosh, there are just so many people that I can think of. When I think of, who's a genius in the creative and cooking world, is that Martha Stewart. When I think about her whole story and everything that happened to her, I found her story fascinating. I found she had a little bit of grind and a little bit of grit. I think now in this dispensation of her life is more grit now. She has a stick-to-itiveness that I think is memorable as well as admirable, because you would think she would not have recovered. But, what I saw in her was a spirit of resilience that I think if we all take a lesson from that resilience really informed her ability to continue to be sustained. So, yeah.
What is the genius that you wanted? Because most of the time, the genius that we want and the genius that God gives us is not the same.
Yes.
I want to be X, and he's like, no, you're going to be Y. And then when you're Y, everything falls in line, everything goes, but you're like, I'd like to be X.
Yeah.
What was the X for you?
Musician. I play several instruments, but not to the degree of mastery that I've been able to achieve in other domains of my life. But that has been the one nearest and dearest to my heart. And so I grew up playing the piano. I was trained by a classical pianist. He has since passed away. And then I had a gift of playing by ear. So my mom them allowed me to quit because I could play by ear. And I played all the way through college. I never had a job when I was in college because churches always needed a musician. And so I would just be booked up. Okay, I'm playing at this church on this Sunday, this church. Oh, we got to drive over here because I got to play at this church. So I played the piano and the organ for churches all the way through college, and they paid me, And so that's how I ate. And then when I got out, because I was also speaking at the time, the speaking took off and I kind of ended up leaving the musician part behind. And so when I look back, I'm like, gosh, but I love to play. I wish I would have kept that skill set up. I can still sit down and play the piano, but not to the degree that had I continued to invest in that skill set, I probably would be pretty good today, I would say. At least I think so, in my opinion.
I think it's the future is bright for the rest of us, not just for you, but for the rest of us, because with BreakForth Ministries, what I love about this is, or what I'm hearing at least, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you've corrected me quite a few times throughout the last couple hours.
I did not correct you in any way. No, I would never do that.
No
what
way.
I did was provided loving, constructive guidance to
There
make
we-
sure you stayed on the right path because you are so awesome.
I love you so much. Where was I on that one? Where were we? Where were we going?
We were going down a great path of.
No, we're in good hands because most of the time people like the church. A lot of times, this is my buddy called me the other day. His name is Will, and he said, I want to tell you something. He said, but don't be offended. And that's generally when someone's
that's
going to
when
offend
you're
you.
going to be offended.
But he's my best friend. He's my
Yeah.
guy. So he was like, can I tell you something? I said, of course. He said, Christian people turn more people away from Christ than all the rest of the heathens in the world.
Mm.
And I was like, wow. And then I thought about it, and I was like, pretty true. Because a lot of times church culture has the tendency to be very judgmental, whereas what most people need is someone living it out. And what I hear in BreakForth Solutions is that you're an example of what, when you apply godly principles, will happen. So that's why when I say that, that's why I think it's so important, because there are the sides of You know, so many people judge God on man's inconsistencies.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of inconsistencies in all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why his grace is sufficient for us. I think I asked you, is it? Because if we look at the pure essence of what it means to be a Christian, that means to be a Christ follower.
Mhm.
And so we have to ask ourselves, is the persons that are behaving in a church culture in alignment with the tenets and the principles of Christ? Can we actually call them Christians? Or is that just a catch-all that we use for people who just happen to go to church?
Yeah.
And so, but when we look at the essence of what it really means to be a Christian, which means that we are Christ followers, which means that we obey his commandments. It does not mean we're perfect. It does not mean we do not fall short, because all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But do we correct? Do we get right? Do we extend grace? Do we extend mercy to people? Do we show the love of Christ to people? And when they're behaving in such a way that it turns people away, then we have to evaluate, is it applicable that we give them the title Christian?
Wow. So I started the podcast because my two kids, Maddox and McKenna.
Oh, hi,
And
Maddox and McKenna.
Maddox is 14 now, and McKenna is 17.
Yeah, okay.
And
Good ages.
McKenna
Fun
is
household.
in the arts, so dancing, singing, acting, all that stuff. My son is more into sports, march to the beat of his own drum.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to worship idols. I just wanted him to be inspired by iconic people.
Yeah.
That's why I have you here.
Oh, wow.
And so
That is
what advice
humbling.
would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names and call yourself Auntie Nichelle, it would be awesome.
Okay, Maddox and McKenna, Auntie Nichelle says to you that there is greatness in you. You come from great parents who have provided an environment for you to aspire to be all that you believe you can be. And therefore, what I would say to you today is, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are full of value. The world has great need of experiencing who you are in the pureness of how you have been groomed and developed for such a time as this. And I say, have fun, enjoy your life, and do some great things.
Kingdom principles applied.
Amen.
Like seeing that, it's very seldom that you see it. There's people that talk about it. There's people that do it. A lot of times people that do it don't talk about it.
Yeah.
There's people that talk about it that don't do it. But very seldom do you find the intersection of a person who does it and talks about it, but can articulate it in a way that is connected with the audience.
Yay.
And that's you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I appreciate that.
Wow.
I
am
appreciate it.
humbled.
Seriously,
Thank
it's
you.
a really, really, really amazing thing
Thank you.
to have happen.
Thank you so much. I
So,
appreciate it.
Well, people are going to, go crazy on Auntie Nichelle,
Oh,
and they're all going to
yes,
call you when you're
yes.
tired, because that's when you're going to give them stuff.
them
They're going to know that you're going to make,
Yeah.
rational judgments,
Yes.
systematic, unless you're nieces and nephews, because then you're going to send them back to their parents spoiled.
Exactly. Yes.
What else do you want the world to know about BreakForth?
Well, I've lived this for such a time now that, I've really been working on a book called The BreakForth Principle, unleashing the leader that the world needs to see today. And so I am just hoping that, everything I've said will give them an interest in really getting that book when it comes out. It's coming out very soon, The BreakForth Principle.
The BreakForth Principle. What I would say to you, and I generally would never say this, but what I would say to you is that the subtitle, simplify it and put it in a place where it would be, even if, and I'm not saying that you have to take mine when I say this, but kingdom principles applied is something that simple, because you are a living, breathing example of
Amen.
taking principles, putting them in action, and seeing results.
Wow.
That's what it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You know what
We'll
I mean?
revisit it. I
And
probably
so-
chopped it up anyway.
No, I mean,
So
but
we
I
will
just,
I will take that under advisement.
but I tell you, those three things that you're learning, you're applying, and you're seeing results.
Yes.
And that's just a
Yes.
massive.
Amen.
Massive. It's
Thank
such
you.
a really, really cool example.
Excellent.
Did you have a good
Thank
time?
you. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
How long do you think that we've talked?
Oh my gosh, it went by so fast, but I'm certain about 2 hours, right?
Yeah, that's almost 3.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh, this was
So you're incredible. You have been
Wow.
absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you
Excited
so
to have you on in the
much.
future.
Oh, the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. And to your audience, I want to say thank you to them for receiving me and listening. And please go tell somebody to come to the Kelly Cardenas show. This is an amazing show, and I'm excited about its now and its future.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank you.
You're officially off the hot seat.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small grooves into launchpad flights. Yeah, this the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launchpad flights. We begun surfing waves too low, made our own rules everywhere we go. Held tight to the truth that our parents declared. Anything is possible, the love stayed there. Now Rob's daughter ballin' on the end scene, Olay scene. Will's kids live dreams we never could have seen. This the vibe that raised us, made us, saved us. Love so strong that the hard times praised us. From base life roots to the freeway nights, we turn small rooms into launchpad flights.